Yeah, I was encouraged by how the first 3 innings looked, especially against this lineup. We talked about it prior to the series starting. This was going to be a really tough matchup for them. They're in the top of the league, and just overall damage against left-handed starters, left-handed pitching in general. So this was going to be a real test for them. So the first 3 went well, and we just have to solve for the big innings against them. It happens more often than he would like, we would like, and it's something that we have to continue to figure out an answer for.
I'm out. Whatever the opposite is of the conductor hat, that's what I'm wearing today. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. I'm done with the Matthew Liberatore experience. I don't know how the crown plays into this, but I'll take it.
Hear ye.
You're king of the tones. Hear ye, hear ye.
I am not expecting that the Cardinals will make a move, but I would so vastly prefer that they would, man. And they've surprised me this year. They sent down. I can't wear this. They sent down
because your head's too big. I get it.
Too small. They sent down Victor Scott II. They sent down Nolan Gorman. They benched Pedro Baez. So they've surprised me with some of these moves. Hell, they DFA'd and then traded for a player to be named later, Chris Roycroft. I thought that experience would never come to an end. So maybe I'll be surprised and wrong here as well, Alex. But man, he's been one of the worst starting pitchers in Major League Baseball for a calendar year. This is no longer a small sample size. I did some research into this earlier today because I was curious. You look back since July 1st of last year.
Has anybody ever noticed, by the way, that BK's research is always about making a guy feel worse about himself? Be like, I did some research. I did some research, and Liberatore is the worst pitcher since 1895.
That's not true. I do a lot of research into J.J. Weatherholt as well, and T-Bone says that all of it doesn't matter. But I told you about how he's one of the best
that's not research.
rookies in the last 25 years.
What is he good for?
There have been 129 different pitchers in Major League Baseball that threw at least 100 innings since July 1st of last season. Among them, Matthew Liberatore, again, out of 129. Matthew Liberatore ranks 119th in ERA, 128th in expected ERA, 125th in fielding independent ERA, 127th in batting average allowed, tied for 127th in WHIP, and 123rd in home runs allowed per 9 innings.
I don't hear what the problem is, man.
He's legitimately a bottom 10 pitcher in every meaningful metric. Opposing hitters are batting .295 against him since July 1st of last year. They have a slugging percentage of .512 against him. In other words,
good God,
they are basically Wilson Contreras against Matthew Liberatore. In fact, better than Wilson Contreras against Matthew Liberatore.
So not that good.
In terms of pitcher run value, which take it or leave it, whatever, he's the worst pitcher in Major League Baseball that have thrown at least 200 pitches or 2,000 pitches since July 1st of last year. Literally the worst. Alex, I don't know what more there is to learn here. This is a calendar year of runway for Matthew Liberatore, and he's been a bottom 5-ish pitcher in Major League Baseball. In fact, here's another stat for you. You ready? Out of those 129 pitchers that have thrown at least 100 innings since July 1st of last year, there have been 4, here we go, T-Bone, that have been worth negative wins above replacement.
Oh, 4. Now that one matches the eye test with Libby.
3 of them have pitched for the Cardinals over this stretch.
Matches
Matthew
the eye test.
Liberatore, Eric Fetty, and Miles Michaelis. The one exception is Mitchell Parker, who his bum ass needs to be pitching for the Cardinals as well.
You want to trade for Mitchell Parker?
Yes.
Where's he pitching these days?
I think Pittsburgh, right?
All right, trade for him.
That's right.
There's your deadline acquisition.
Alex.
Brandon.
I don't know if Hunter Dobbins will be worse, but I'd like to find out. I don't know if Bryson Motts will be worse, but I'd like to find out. I don't know if Quinn Matthews will be worse, but again, I would like to find out. They keep saying, who's your alternative? The answer is anybody other than Eric Fetty or Miles Michaelis.
Good news. They're not on the team.
I don't want to continue to watch this guy get his teeth kicked in while there are seemingly viable alternatives at the minor league level. And this is not like Fetty last year, where you had to send him out of the system and DFA him in order to make a move. You have 2 options here. Option 1, you could put him into the bullpen where we have seen he is a huge upgrade over some of the current options in your bullpen. And by the way, don't look now, they could use some length out of their bullpen right about now.
Yeah, T-Bone trying to tell me Graceffo's bad. Everybody's
you
bad.
send him down to AAA because I believe he still has an option left.
According to Fangraphs, he does.
And he can go down the way that Andre Palante did to figure his stuff out. And guess what? It worked with Andre Palante. He went down, worked on that sinker. It has fixed his issues against right-handed hitters. So it's time, in my opinion, to make this move. Do I believe they're going to do it? No. But for all of those reasons that I just listed, and because I just don't want to watch it anymore, I'm ready to see something different. Alex, where are you at right now with Matthew Liberatore after another bad start?
Let
for him
me tell
last
you
night?
why he should stay in the rotation and
Please
keep
do.
getting these reps. I can't tell you that, man. I mean, I'm with you. Like,
I would love to hear it, truly. If there's
I don't think there's a way to sell that, to be honest. Because you just painted the picture. You did the research. You just showed it. It's Michaelis and Fetty. And see, the problem for the Cardinals is if they didn't make the Blaze Jordan move, the Velazquez move, the Jimmy Crooks move, you can at least point to it and say, well, the Cardinals don't do that. Old regimes, Cardinals don't do that. They're going to keep them out there. This regime has basically said to you all season, like, hey, if we've got a better option, we're going to put him in that position. The one area that they haven't done that, though, is Matthew Liberatore, or the pitching side of things, at least in the rotation. They've just stuck with it, and it's because mostly it's been fine, but now you're starting to see the seams break. And I'll tell you, just watching Matthew Liberatore last night, that first home run that he gave up, or that first RBI that he gave up, you saw the whole thing break for him. Like you started to see him get frustrated, a little bit of stressed out. It's like the yips really set into play. When one thing goes wrong for Liberatore, the whole thing comes crashing down. And you just can't keep running that guy back out there. There's no confidence for Matthew Liberatore anymore because he knows that when something goes poorly, it's not going to end well for this team. And I don't think you want to keep this guy wearing it. And you also don't want to keep putting him out there and having to go to your bullpen in the fourth or fifth inning. So I think last night was a really good example of, for Matthew Liberatore, man, his best weapon might be a bullpen arm, because the first 3 innings, it looked like Liberatore was going to be fine.
Absolutely.
He had the swing and miss stuff. He kept the damage to a minimum. That's a guy that I feel comfortable coming out of the bullpen for 2 innings. That's a guy that I don't feel comfortable when he's on the mound, and I haven't for the last month, to go beyond 3 innings. And that's not a starter for this team.
Absolutely. That's it. Like he's a really good bullpen arm.
Yeah.
You get him through an order one time.
We were comping him to Andrew Miller when we saw him out of the bullpen a couple of years ago, saying, like, could that be a ceiling for Matthew Liberatore?
And if it is, there's value in that, man. Both to the Cardinals and on the trade market if they decide to go that direction as well at the trade deadline this year. So I just don't view this as he has to be a starter. He doesn't. You're choosing to make him a starter, and it's not working. Like at a certain point in time, you have to give somebody else that chance, right? I don't know if it will work with somebody else. And I'm sure the Cardinals would say, well, what are you going to do when Hunter Dobbins gets his teeth kicked in the same way that you have seen with Matthew Liberatore? Are you going to be calling for the next guy? Maybe. But then you go to the next guy and you see if that works. And then you go to the next guy and you see if that works, just the way you did with Nathan Church in center field or Blaze Jordan at third base. If those did not work, well, guess what? You go to the next option at those 2 spots. And with Matthew Liberatore, he's no longer that young, guys. This is a player that is getting older and more expensive as the years go along. So you're going to need to get the best version of Matthew Liberatore sooner rather than later, both for the Cardinals' sake and for Major League Baseball's sake, if somebody else is going to view him as a positive asset to potentially trade for. And right now, there's nobody giving you any sort of valuable resources for this version of Matthew Liberatore. He has been worse for the Cardinals this year than Eric Fetty was for them last year. That is not a made-up statistic. That is accurate based upon their 2 respective starts to the season. And now this is a full calendar year of him pitching this way, guys. It's not a small sample size. This is like 35 starts that we're talking about here where Matthew Liberatore has been a bottom 5 starter in the sport. When you get to that place, you move to the bullpen. That is the typical reaction to this kind of a start to your season.
I'm 100% with you. And the thing that's so weird about it is it's not like the guys that you mentioned as the alternatives. One of them isn't, but 2 of the 3 that you mentioned as alternatives are even on the 40-man roster, right? It's not the hard part of, well, what would we do on the 40-man, right? Like, oh, my God, would we really want to lose Cesar Prieto or potentially one of our bullpen arms like, I don't know, Justin Brule? You don't have to because you've got these guys on the 40-man. Now, Matthews, you'd have to make a move for, right? Quinn's not on the 40-man roster, so you'd have to make that move somehow. But at
guess
this
what?
point,
You're taking Brule out of the bullpen most likely. You're replacing him with Matthew Liberatore, which means that there's a 40-man spot open for Quinn Matthews in the event that that's the move that you want to make.
Exactly. And if you want to go the route that is less, manipulate the roster a little bit, all right, well, then I'll just call up a Monster, call up a Dobbins. I don't see what they're looking for. And the other thing I would ask is, do you really think looking at this guy, the way he profiles, is a guy that the long-term picture for what they keep telling us is, hey, we're building for the future. Does he really fit as a guy that is anywhere 1 through 5 in your rotation in the long-term picture?
I was hopeful earlier this season because we had that 3-week stretch where he had unlocked the swing and miss. And I was like, okay, well, if this is real, then he could be for you in a playoff setting what Brandon Pfaadt was for the Arizona Diamondbacks, where he just has to get hot for a 3-week stretch. But I think we've now seen that wasn't real. It was a nice 3-week stretch. And we've seen that from a lot of guys. Hell, Eric Fetty last year had a couple weeks where he looked pretty good. We've seen in the past from Miles Michaelis where it looks pretty good. Andre Palante's gone on really good runs for a couple of weeks at a time. And then it ends. And teams figure out what he's doing. He has fallen into clearly some sort of patterns. And it's not working any longer. And teams have adjusted, and now it's time for him to adjust back. And I don't know that there is an adjustment back.
And I want to add real quick, it's not a tipping issue because you don't tip this many pitches for this long of a period of time, right? Like that would be a 1 or 2 start issue. Yeah, but I know the narrative started to creep its way back up, and let's just be honest, it's nothing more than to try and sell an excuse. It's not a thing.
It's not a catcher issue either because the Cardinals could have made a switch last night and gone with Jimmy Crooks as their starting catcher, and they chose not to.
Caught the last couple innings that he threw, right? And so, it's not because they pinch hit for Pages. Did he catch an inning or two? I don't know. They pulled Pages rather
only took
quickly.
one at bat.
Yeah, so Crooks came in. I don't know which inning it was, but again, it's not a catcher thing.
When Crooks came in,
so it was after the blow up. But I view it as it's not a catcher problem because BK's right. If they truly thought it was potentially a catcher problem, they would have said, screw it. We will try Crooks left on left to start a game. But they decided not to. They said, you know what? We believe in what Pages is doing. We think he's just as good a game caller as Herrera and Crooks. It's not on them. It's on you, Liberatore. And Liberatore looked like he figured it out until that one inning, everything blew up.
He's T-Bone. That's Alex. I'm BK. You guys can get involved in the show at 314-399-9646. You can also check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. That is where the Cardinals' new CEO, Bill DeWitt III, will be joining us coming up at 12 o'clock. We will also have Tony Feltrin, the Blues Director of Amateur Scouting, as he joins us at 1 o'clock later on today. We'll hear from you throughout. Coming up in about 15 minutes, what's your level of interest in acquiring one of the top 2 wingers that are currently on the market? But next, it sure seems as though the Blues are in the market to move up in this year's NHL draft. But who would they move up to acquire? We'll talk about that next here on BK and Ferrario. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So the tweet that got a lot of attention among Blues fans this morning, Alex, came from Andy Strickland when he wrote, "Can expect St. Louis to be among the teams looking to slide up as high as number 2 overall, willing to deal and have the assets to appease San Jose, looking to capitalize off their draft capital to make immediate upgrades to the roster." That all from Andy Strickland on Twitter. Alex, I think we all agree the Blues are probably going to try to move up in this draft. The question is to where and for whom. So when I ask you those questions, what is your response? What do you think they're trying to move up for? And where do you think it's realistic for them to get?
I mean, my gut tells me that if they're moving up, meaning putting all of these picks together, they're going for one spot, and it's the second overall pick. Unless they believe that San Jose is not taking Ivar Stenberg and that they're going to, tell people one thing and then go a different direction, I think their desire is to go get Ivar Stenberg. Because if I'm looking at the Blues and the arsenal that they have, I don't think they're going to trade all of those draft picks to get a guy that's not going to help them next year. I think if they're moving those, they want to get a guy that can help them next year. And in this draft, I think there's 2 guys that are playing next year at the NHL. It's Gavin McKenna and Ivar Stenberg. And I don't think they're moving up to get a Caleb Malholtzer. I don't think they're moving up to get a defenseman because in their minds, and we can ask Tony Feltrin this, they probably look at those guys and say, yeah, we can get close value to those players later in the draft with our picks where they're at now. So I think the appetite for them is to find an upgrade for their roster now. And in my opinion, that's one player, and it's Ivar Stenberg. And now I think they have the pieces. Just like when Bill Zito acquired that pick from, I forget who they traded that Semeskovich to, but when they traded that guy for a draft pick, and everyone was like, what's Bill Zito doing here? He was doing that so that he had all of the pieces to go get Brady Tkachuk. I think the same thing is at least conversing between Doug Armstrong and Mike Greer of like, hey, 3 picks aren't enough. All right, well, let me see if I can go get another pick. Is this enough? Well, now you got to sweeten the pot a little bit. And now the negotiation really sets into how much do we need to sweeten the pot.
So Puckpedia has the Perry pick value calculator.
That seems made up.
Which basically is
Perry.
this is what
Corey Perry. Corey Perry.
No,
He made
it's
that.
Perri.
Oh.
Okay, well, I don't know who that is.
This is basically what Doug Armstrong was talking about, where they have a certain value that is placed on each pick, right? And it allows them to determine, all right, what is the value of the second overall pick when it comes to what we have to offer? The reason that I bring this up is because, Alex, I put in all of the Blues first-round picks, 11, 15, 16, and 29. And then I put in on the other side the second overall pick from the San Jose Sharks. Which of those do you think is worth more? The Blues side, where they're giving up the 4 first-round picks, or the second overall pick?
I would have to say the 4 picks.
The 4 picks are indeed worth significantly more.
Is it significant?
How much more? Basically the equivalent of the 20th overall selection.
Wow.
Is what you're giving up in excess value, according to at least this formula, based upon the Blues sending all of their 4 first-round picks. Now, it's a lot closer if you do not include the 29th overall selection. So 11, 15, and 16 is worth more than the second overall pick, and that's without including anybody else, like, for example, Colton Parayko in this deal.
And I really wonder if the Blues are trying to figure out a way to negotiate of, maybe we keep 16 and go 11, 15, 29 and add a player to this. And I think San Jose, again, when teams have that pick, they think irrationally. So they're probably looking at, yeah, cool, what the Perry model says, you're paying more.
And the reason that I bring this up, because that's based upon the typical number 2 overall selection, maybe they say, hey, we think that this specific pick, because Stenberg is there, a typical number 1 overall pick in most drafts, we think this is worth more than your typical draft. All right, fine, cool. Would you be willing to do like 11, 15, 16?
Yeah. For
number 2 overall?
100% yes.
T-Bone?
I would be as well. Because I think if you think Stenberg's a star, which is what you would be thinking in that thought process, yeah, okay, I would make that move because I think his star is more game-changing than 3 guys that select in the middle round could be, middle 6 impact forwards?
Stenberg comes in next year and is playing on your second line, and I think anybody you take at 11, 15, and 16, you're 2 years, maybe 3 away from seeing them.
I think that's my goal as well. I'm trying to get up to 2. Now, I don't know if San Jose feels incentivized to move off of that pick. Maybe they say, hey, we've got a ton of young talent in our system. We want a blue chipper. Or, hey, we've got all this young talent. if you're going to get this pick, we need one of your defensemen. We need Colton Parayko. We need Adam Jiricek. We need Philip Broberg, which obviously the Blues would not do. We need one of your defensemen in order to make this work for us. Would you, Alex, be willing to come off of the number 15 overall pick and instead include Adam Jiricek?
Jiricek is a no for me. Jiricek I wouldn't do. If it was Parayko, I would do that. Jiricek I wouldn't. And I know, if you have the appetite to get that star player, then you have to give it up. I don't know if you're finding another defenseman, and maybe they believe that there is. And if you trade Jiricek, then I'll believe the scouting staff that thinks, well, if we're not giving up 15 in your scenario.
Yeah, so you're going 11, 16, and 20 in Jiricek.
So I draft Stenberg at 2, and then I'll find a defenseman at 15. Yep. And in that world, then I'll trust the scouting department. But, man, Jiricek would be tough because I do think that's a top pair potential defenseman in your roster. But sometimes you got to give to get. I wouldn't do that, though. I would try and sway them to a different direction.
I think I would, because if you're telling me, hey, we think Stenberg's a star, I think you need one of those now in the NHL. I know Carolina won the Cup without one, but as you had made reference to the other day when we talked about them, they kind of feel like more of a one-off than anything else. I think I'm willing to do that, right? I think I would view this as, you know what, sure, I just pulled a major piece out of my future plans to try and get a star. I will figure that out as we go through this build.
Cat Dad Gamer says there's zero chance the Blues give up Jiricek. I wish BK would stop putting that out there. I'm not telling you they're going to. I'm saying if I'm another team, that would be my asking price. Is I'm looking at your roster. I don't feel as though, just speaking from Greer's standpoint as the GM of the San Jose Sharks, I think this is probably his perspective. Our team is not all in right now, which means I'm not trying to acquire somebody like Colton Parayko, who's over the age of 30. I would rather have a defenseman in their mid-20s. And then you look at the Blues roster, that player doesn't really exist outside of Philip Broberg. And the Blues, I think, on Philip Broberg would be an immediate no. I'm definitely not making that move because I've already seen him have the ability to be a legit number one defenseman on a winning team in the NHL.
Right.
So I'm not moving off from that. Okay, if you're not doing Colton Parayko from San Jose's side and you're not doing Philip Broberg from the Blues side, where could we find a match? And that's where you end up with either Mailloux or Jiricek. And the value on those two players, I would imagine, is quite different. If the Blues are including Mailloux, maybe that replaces like the 29th overall selection.
Yeah, you're going 11, 15, 16 in Mailloux.
Yeah, if the Blues are adding in Jiricek, well, that could change in a significant way the draft capital that you're having to give up here. And you still have other draft capital to use, which allows you to potentially replace Adam Jiricek in your system with the exact same pick that you had for Jiricek a couple of years ago. Right? Like, this is a very good defensive class, according to all reports. And you now have a mid-first round selection to get a new defenseman into the system. So it's not as though you're just sending all of this out for a forward. You then also have assets to draft a defenseman in the middle of the first round. So that's why I'm putting it out there, is because I think that might be the kind of thing that San Jose is asking for in order to move off of the number 2 overall pick. They don't have to move this pick. They can just said, no, screw you. We're taking Ivar Stenberg. We think he's going to be awesome with Macklin Celebrini for the next decade, and he's cheap, young, cost-controlled, and he's going to be on our top line starting on opening night. Okay, how do you make them move off of that statement? A guy like Adam Jiricek is the kind of thing that might incentivize them to do so.
Yeah, but I also know that the Blues look at, the depth and the positions of how these guys play. And, I mean, he's a right-handed defenseman, and there's not a lot of right-handed defensemen that will be available to you at that point. So I think they would try and steer it in other directions to say, like, we think Parayko would be more doable, or, maybe we try and sway you on a Lindstein or a Mailloux and throw in multiple defensemen. Like, I think the picks get it done enough because, remember, San Jose still has 9. And if you are trading them 11, 15, and 16, man, that's 9, 11, 15, and 16 if you're the Sharks.
They also have 3 first-round picks already, though. So do they really need 7 first-round picks?
Greer said yesterday or 2 days ago at his media availability, he was asked about Stenberg, and he said, hey, look, that's kind of you guys putting that name out there, but 6'3" defensemen that have offense don't grow on trees. That was him basically saying, hey, guess what? I still need a defenseman. And that comment to me was, this is cute if you're going to throw a bunch of picks at me, but you better put a defenseman in that offer.
It's why I also
don't check that player that you just mentioned. That's your
because that's not Parayko.
It's also why I wonder if they don't take Stenberg at 2. Like, I think this is trying to sweeten the pot. The best defenseman you're going to get is at 2 if you're them. And does that mean that they don't take Stenberg and Stenberg moves to 3 or 4?
It could be.
Because...
But if that's the case, I would say it's likely you're probably... Well, I don't know with Buffalo now. I was going to say, because Chicago was originally all in on Stenberg.
Buffalo apparently was in negotiations to move that around yesterday, and I know they were talking to Nyes about
Vancouver is the one that I still find to be very interesting. If Stenberg were to fall to 3... Vancouver's the kind of team where they're so early in their rebuild process right now, they might be more interested in the picks. Like, you might be able to get them to move off of their pick a little easier than you could with San Jose.
Yeah.
Because San Jose already has a ton of young talent in their system. They already have 3 first-round picks. Vancouver might be looking for something more in that regard.
And especially because
that's probably the best case scenario for the Blues.
Especially because their next pick is until like the 20s for Vancouver. So like if you can incentivize, now you're moving out of 3, which is a lot, but you get a lot more picks in that scenario. And it doesn't sound like they have interest in Caleb Malhotra. I don't know. This is going to be a difficult trade to pull off because you just don't see this. And if I'm San Jose, I'm moving the pick. I don't want to move out of the top 5. So, Brian Burke's going into the Hall of Fame, former executive in the hockey world. He was the one that pulled off the Sedin magic. And I watched a video on this the other day to where they were picking 2nd and they needed to get to 3rd, or it was 3rd and then they needed to get to 2nd. And this guy was wheeling and dealing to where he traded up to get to 12, and then 12 was to get to the top 5, and then 5 was to get to 2 because he wanted to get the Sedin brothers. That could be the other factor into this. How much wheeling and dealing and creativity takes place to where the Blues move up higher in the draft to then incentivize San Jose to move back in the draft.
Well, and the other thing is, like, for San Jose, they have 9. So if they were to make this deal, let's go down this hypothetical scenario, right? They get Jiricek, 11, and 29. Maybe that's the move, right? They would now have 11 and 9 to move back up into the top 5 potentially.
With
where
the Rangers,
maybe
or
it's
the
the
Canucks.
Rangers, something like that, where those teams would be incentivized because now I've got, all right, if I'm one of these teams, yes, I'm moving down, but I'm getting 2 top 11 selections, and this is a draft that it seems as though after that top 5-ish, there's another tier for about 10 more picks where you could get 2 bites of the apple in that like 3rd tier of this NHL draft.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a lot of moving parts, but as we heard yesterday from Doug Armstrong in his presser, this is the kind of stuff they're doing in the room right now, where they're trying to figure out what are all of the viable options for us when it comes to these picks. What are the players that we could get with them? What are the prospects that we could get with them? What are the actual players in the NHL draft where if we just sit and pick, what can we get? What if we move up? What could we get with those? There's so many different ways that this thing can go, man. And I'm as interested and fascinated in this NHL draft as I have been probably ever from the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah. I think right now, if I'm sitting in that, if you're a fly on the wall in that front office, there is an urge from the Blues to get Ivar Stenberg. And it's just because, not so much the brother quality of this, but Steen is familiar with the Stenbergs. He was around them. It's why they drafted Otto in the first round, because he knew them very strongly. The style that Ivar Stenberg plays is exactly what Doug Armstrong kind of alluded to yesterday when he was talking about what they want to do. And on top of it, I mean, this Stenberg kid has been putting up numbers in the Swedish Hockey League against grown men that hasn't been put up since Henrik Zetterberg, Marcus Naslund, or the Sedin brothers, all Hall of Fame players. It's a guy you go after in the position that you're in. If you're trying to upgrade, it's just at what cost? And that's going to be the fascinating part of what Mike Greer tries to hold hostage with Doug Armstrong and Steen.
Alex and Donnie will have it all broken down for you right here on 101 ESPN tomorrow night as the draft takes place. They've got a special edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast. It's an NHL draft show on 101 ESPN. Blues loaded with not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 first-round selections, and this draft could shape the future of the St. Louis Blues. Alex and Donnie will have you covered with instant analysis, special guests, and reaction all night long. It's the 101 ESPN NHL Draft Show tomorrow night starting at 6 o'clock, and it is supported by Jules on Hampton. Coming up at 12 o'clock, we'll be joined by the Cardinals CEO, Bill DeWitt III. Be sure to tune in on that, or for that, coming up at noon. You can check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. Coming up next, we just talked a lot about the draft side of things. What could the Blues do if they decide to use their picks to acquire players? Talk about two of the top wingers that are now seemingly available on the market next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals fell to the Diamondbacks yesterday 9-4. Game 4, the four-game set will be tonight, 6:45 first pitch. Zach Gallen on the mound for Arizona. Michael McGreevy will get the start for St. Louis. And coming up at 12 o'clock, the St. Louis Cardinals CEO, Bill DeWitt III, will join the show. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Alex, you said there's a tweet out there about the NHL draft?
Yeah, so take it for what it's worth because it's somebody tweeting, but typically when these happen, they're hearing it on some type of show. But it was tweeted, Chris Johnston said both the Blues and Maple Leafs have shown interest and had calls about the second overall pick.
Which makes sense, certainly on the Blues side of things, as we just heard from Strickland. I don't think Toronto has the assets to make that happen.
I think they do. It's just a matter of do you want to give up Austin Matthews or not? That's what the answer is.
No, right?
Unless you're going into the full-blown rebuild if you're Toronto, and it's like, look, we know Matthews is going to walk in 2 years. There's no selling him on this. Let's go get Gavin McKenna. But in that world, I don't think they're taking Ivar Stenberg. They're probably taking a defenseman.
Sure.
So that would be great if you're the Blues because they move out of it, and then can you get Stenberg moving forward a little bit? But
would they have to trade like Matthews straight up for the number 2 overall pick?
Probably. Okay. Yeah, I mean Byram for the number 4 overall pick, which was the dumbest trade probably I've seen in a while.
Set a new bar, though.
Yeah, I mean it does set a new bar.
They couldn't get Nyes for the number 2, right?
I don't think so. You'd have to pay more than Nyes.
Okay, I thought so too. Yeah. I was just making sure. Again, the Byram thing throws me off a little. I don't get it.
Now Nyes is. I mean, you have to judge. Do you think Stenberg's going to be better than what Nyes is? And you're trading
and the $7 million.
Yeah, but he's locked up and he's 23 years old, and you're probably if he's better
also
than
locked
that.
Up.
Well, for 3 years, and then you get the RFA, and this guy's great. So
basically club control for the next 7.
Yeah, but for how this works in the NHL, if these guys are really good right away, he might make $9 million. Look, Benson just got 7.75,
which is what Matthew Nyes is making today.
Nyes has put up more points than Benson, though, in the NHL.
Understood. The reason that I'm saying this is because for Matthew Nyes, you're at 7.75 today. For Ivar Stenberg, he will make about $800,000 next year and for the next 3 years, which means that for the next 3 years, it is Stenberg plus $7 million in cap space versus Matthew Nyes. So it's not just a true 1-for-1.
But he's a more advanced player that if you deem that to be true to where he comes in and he's playing with Macklin Celebrini right away, I wouldn't do it. If I'm holding the second overall pick, that's too pricey. It's the same. I wouldn't have paid the 4th overall pick for Bo Byram. That's too pricey for me where you're picking and where your organization is at. But if you're Toronto and they're interested in it, hell yeah, you do that. If I get the 1st and 2nd overall pick, I get a generational winger and let's not go generational. I get a potential superstar winger and a potential superstar defenseman.
Yeah.
So I think you'd have to go Matthews if you wanted that 2nd overall pick. And I don't know if Toronto would even be interested in that.
Yeah, I don't think they have the assets, realistically speaking, to be able to make this happen.
It's the same Zach Werenski conversation we had yesterday. If you know he's going to walk in 2 years, do you just get what you can get for him right now?
And maybe, but that also requires Austin Matthews to sign off on it, and I wonder if he's willing to go to San Jose. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe. It's the West Coast. He's from Arizona, so it's possible,
It's definitely a more desirable destination than what it was for the last 3 years. But, yeah, I don't know if you're Austin Matthews, you want to go there where there's no Team USA guys that you can play with compared to what...
Celebrini's a stud, though.
That's true. And I mean, if I'm Austin Matthews, I don't have to be a center. I can go be a winger and just play with Celebrini. Talk about being an 80-goal scorer.
Yeah, that's basically the setup that Edmonton
I'd become a
had.
Sharks fan with Stoltz.
Oof. It'd be hard not to.
Okay.
But I wouldn't.
Speaking of Matthew Nyes, this is also coming from Chris Johnston's latest trade board over on The Athletic. He says the more Matthew Nyes' name works itself through the rumor mill, the more likely it seems that the Leafs have committed to moving on. Nyes is a young power forward with an ideal blend of size and skill who is signed until his late 20s. He's a rare commodity on the trade market. Toronto seems to be focused on taking advantage of the scarcity. While the Leafs want to downplay the likelihood of a deal, rival executives now believe there is a move coming. We've talked a lot about Matthew Nyes, Alex. What do you think a realistic trade package would look like to acquire him if the Blues decided, you know what, this is the guy we're targeting?
11, 15, 29, and probably one of your young wingers, Neighbors, Stenberg, Carbonneau, one of those guys with 11, 15, and 29. I don't think it would cost you all 4 picks to get them. I wouldn't pay all 4 picks to get them, but I think you're talking 2 of your top 3 and then 29 and then some type of player.
How would you feel about making that kind of a deal?
I don't think I would do it. As much as I think Nyes is really good, man, 11, 15, 29, and let's say in this world they'd say we want Jake Neighbors because we want another power forward to place in his spot. you might just be trading for a slightly better version of Jake Neighbors. Like, I just don't know what Matthew Nyes is, and as much as I think he can be good, and the chemistry of he and Snuggerud would be incredible, if we're just talking picks, I'd probably make the deal. But when you get to a player that you're putting in the package, that's where I'd say, I don't think so.
I wouldn't give up that much for him. If we're talking 11-29 and like 11-29 and Otto Stenberg, I would consider that.
Well, the Stenberg brother dreams would be dead in this scenario, so yeah, you kind of have to.
If you're making the move for Nyes, though, you don't have the assets to be able to move up to 2.
Right.
So this would be your choice. You're moving up to, or you're choosing to trade for Matthew Nyes instead of going up to get Otto Stenberg, or
right.
Ivar Stenberg, rather. Man, it just would make me so nervous. This is a guy that has been able to play with some of the top talent in the world for the first 3 years of his NHL career. And he's been quite good with them. But let's be real on what that means. Sub 30 goals per year, about 60-ish points per year. And he's been a negative 30 last year while on the ice. There's just so much risk that comes along with this. It's not as simple as, well, this guy's awesome. He's a power forward. He's going to come in and put up 80 points his first year and score 30 goals for you. I don't know that to be true. Sometimes guys like this are coming from a worse situation than what they are here in St. Louis. And I would assume, playing alongside Robert Thomas, he's going to have a boost in production. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I can make that assumption with Matthew Nyes, given the team and the line mates that he's coming from.
Yeah.
So would I be interested in making this deal for a 23-year-old player that has a history of playing with Jimmy Snuggerud and can produce like that? Absolutely. I'm interested. But I think it's on my terms as opposed to some of these other conversations that we've had where I'm willing to give up the world. With Nyes, given the cost, the money associated with him already, and the situation he was playing in, I would be super nervous, and this is a big-time risk.
There's a lot of people that are saying you reunite him with Jimmy Snuggerud from the University of Minnesota days. Yeah, that's the dream, I guess. But let's also remember who their center was in Minnesota. It's Logan Cooley. Like, in this world, are you playing Nyes with Robert Thomas? What does that mean for the chemistry of what Dylan Holloway is? And then does Dylan Holloway's point production? But also, what if I were to tell you that you could get a Matthew Nyes with the 11th overall pick? I mean, Ethan Belchez is 6'5", 230 pounds. He's going to college this year at 19 years old. And when Matthew Nyes was 19 years old, he put up 15 goals and was a point-per-game player in college. What if Belchez does this? What if Belchez is what Matthew Nyes? Also, remember, Nyes was a second-round pick. This isn't a guy that was selected in the top 10. So I'm not overly excited about dropping all of those assets to go get one guy that, I mean, yeah, he scored 29 goals, but I just don't know what he's going to look like moving forward.
Mahomes Longbody said, so this will make you nervous, but bringing in Elias Pettersson doesn't? Bro, you're wild.
Elias Pettersson put up 100 points in the NHL.
He also makes me nervous.
Yes.
Very.
But I think that the risk there is different because of the position.
And what you're giving up for him.
Exactly. I think you're giving up less. The cost in terms of the money is similar. And the position being a second line center for you, I do think has to weigh into the conversation here, where that is a bigger need for the Blues right now than a winger. I think you're in a more dire need for a second line center. I know that's different now with McMichael in the mix, but I'm not totally positive that he's going to be a center long term. That's where the Pettersson conversation to me gets really interesting. All right, coming up on the other side, want to get to questions and answers. We'll get to some of your questions. Also, I want to ask Alex what he's willing to give up for Jason Robertson, who's going to make all of the money. We'll get into that next here on 101 ESPN. Cardinal CEO Bill DeWitt III joining us coming up in about 15 minutes on BK and Ferrario. But right now, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. Alex, we didn't get to the other player that I wanted to ask you about in the previous segment because of the tweet that we had got to. So Jason Robertson is the other player that's shooting up all the trade boards right now. This comes from Chris Johnston over on The Athletic. With the 11th hour approaching, it appears more likely than not that Robertson will be moved. The Stars had hoped to sign the restricted free agent to a long-term contract, but the team's concerns now shift to a potential offer sheet, which could begin on July 1st. It sure seems as though he's going to get dealt. This is the guy that I got a lot of trouble from the text line during the season saying, I don't know how they'd make this work. You look at their cap sheet, man, the numbers are the numbers, and they've got a huge problem on their hands here. He had an awesome season, scored 40-plus goals. They've got a huge problem on their hands here. Do you think he makes sense for the Blues?
No, I don't, man. I think a lot of people want this player. This guy makes me more nervous than any other option out there, which is a crazy thing. Yes, more than Pettersson.
What?
I'm not going to pay a goal scorer $14 million to not be a 40-goal scorer. You think people were pissed off at Jordan Kyrou for not scoring 30 goals at $8 million. What do you think happens when Jason Robertson's a 29-goal scorer for this team?
He has been a 35, 45, 30, 45, and 40-goal scorer over the past 5 seasons.
100% all of those with the Dallas Stars, though. And it makes me very nervous when you take a guy from one system and move it to the other. Here's the other thing. Jason Robertson, if he's not staying with Dallas, obviously is valuing getting the most money possible, which I can't blame him for. Like, anybody would want to do that in that position. But you do have to just worry or wonder about the personality side of it, to where you're leaving Dallas, that you have chances to win Stanley Cup after Stanley Cup if you stay there and still make $12 million in a tax-free place versus going somewhere else to get $14 million. So I would stay away from this one. I just don't think it makes sense for the Blues.
I would add the caveat, I'm not sure that he would come here and sign long-term, but my question to you is Robert Thomas better than Rope Hintz or Wyatt Johnson, the two top centers on the Stars?
I think it's similar.
I think that he's better playmaker than both of them.
Then I'm going after Robertson. I mean, you just answered my question right there for me, because if I am going to pay Robertson to come in here, expectation he's a 40-goal scorer, and I think if you're going to say we believe in Robert Thomas, that's who I'm putting him on a line with, and that I would say that will help him get to that 40-goal mark. So I would make the move. Again, I believe with the caveat, I don't think he would come here, but
I think he'd come here if you're giving him the money.
I would make it happen, because I think that's the superstar that you're lacking.
Let me ask you this then. If he's this good of a player, why wasn't he on Team USA's Olympic roster?
I think it was they were building,
crack a top 9 roster.
I think that was they were kind of building, making sure they had the right line combinations. And when you look at that, it was
tells you he's not a hard-working guy.
No, it tells me he's a 40-goal scorer, but I just think that they looked at that and said, we want to play with a little bit more grit, and he didn't fit that. I mean,
how did people feel about a guy who was supposed to be a 40-goal scorer that doesn't play with grit?
40-goal scorers don't just, grow on trees, right? I mean...
That's what we said about Kyrou.
Yeah,
and he doesn't play with grit.
Okay, but Kyrou clearly just flamed out here. My bet would be...
What if he flames out at $14 million? Because he played with Robert Thomas.
Yeah, but I'm willing to bet on it and put him on Robert Thomas's line and see if it happens.
For $14 million?
Yeah. I think he's a bet. I would rather go after him than Pettersson. Pettersson to me screams a guy that has too many issues inside that locker room.
If you're worried about a guy making $8 million who doesn't pan out and is a third-line center with really good defensive skills, you're telling me the team's not going to be screwed if they go sign a $14 million player who scores 30 goals?
You keep assuming he's going to score 25 to 30 goals. I'm saying he's scoring 40, and he's going to be here and doing that in a Blues uniform and on the cover of an NHL video game.
But we have to also recognize that doesn't happen all the time. Goal scorers disappear. We've talked about this with Kyrou.
Not if they're stars.
And if you leave a system that has worked for you for a long time, and when you play on a line with Mikko Rantanen, who also can find his ability to score goals and creates a lot of space, how's he going to do that here?
I'd do it.
I know you
I
would.
saw a smile on BK's face, which made me know he agreed with me.
If you're telling me I could add a 40-goal scorer to the mix, I'm doing it. Just flat out. That's the kind of guy that I would be willing to offer. It's absolutely a risk. All of these moves are risks, and it's ultimately a determination on which one do you think is worth that risk. I would do it on... I would be more willing to go with Robertson or Pettersson than I would be on Matthew Nice.
Oh, I agree with that statement.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. From Doug's fat friend. Guys, what would you be willing to give up for Matty Beniers? Alex, I know that's a guy that you really like.
I think I'm only giving up 2 picks, probably like 11 and 16 in that spot. I do really like Matty Beniers. I think that guy is a permanent second-line center that can play top line for you. Great defensively, has never had offense on his wings. But I'm not going beyond 2 picks, and it's not going to be 11 and 15.
From the 573, did you guys forget to talk about Liberatore? Nope. If you missed it, though, check it out on the podcast page after the show today, 101ESPN.com and the free 101 ESPN app. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
I said he should be put into the bullpen or sent down.
And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, by the way. Get notified every time a new episode drops.
From Starvin Marvin. Guys, Robertson has a consistent track record and has performed in the playoffs. That's why he's different.
Kyra had a consistent track record for 3 years and also performed in the playoffs. How'd that turn out last year?
You got a really good return for him.
BK told me he was hurt.
So you're going to sign him and then trade him?
Yeah.
He did talk about his injury, by the way. Said he's fine.
Who could have seen that one?
Who could have seen that one coming?
Here's my shock face.
Yeah.
From the 314, Alex.
Problem. He's probably not good.
From the 314, Alex Bedard didn't make Team Canada either. Does that make him a bad player?
Yeah,
Weird
that's
logic.
a good point.
Yeah.
Weird
you know
logic,
Who
I
Bedard
agree.
didn't, you know who Bedard didn't make it over? Macklin Celebrini. You know who Jason Robertson didn't make it over? Brock Nelson.
See, that was just bad roster management by Bill Guerin.
I don't think that.
He won the gold.
Was Nelson on the wing?
He played some of it. He played center and wing because they were rotating guys.
Yeah, I think that's a little different.
Okay. Well, sure.
Also,
let's go through the USA Olympic roster if you want to look at it.
Go for it. Show me the winger.
All right. Let's see. Wingers here. Vincent Trocheck.
He was a center.
He was a winger. They used him as a winger. JT Miller, used as a winger.
And he is center too, though?
He is a center, but they used him as a winger.
What I've already learned through 2 names was they just wanted multiple guys that could take face-offs.
They took Jake
Robertson can't, so that's why he didn't make the
Gensel.
Team.
What's the argument on him?
He's just a good player.
Better than Jason Robertson?
Potentially.
Jake
Yeah, maybe.
Gensel scored.
He got paid.
Let's see. 38, 41, 40,
At least
and
the guy
36.
that I make an
Yeah,
argument
Jake
to
Gensel might
acquires
be a better
40 goal
player than
scorer.
Jason Robertson. I think he's a better two-way player than Jason Robertson.
You want to go give this guy who's not a good two-way player $14 million on a team that values two-way players?
I mean, if you're going to get a player
we
like
value
this,
the wrong
that's
things.
the going cost. That's the rate.
Hey, man,
gotta be willing to do it.
more power to you. That's a risk that I don't think I'd want to do for 14 mil. I'd take the risk on the player if he was 8, 9, or 10 million, not one of the highest paid players in the National Hockey League.
It's going to be that until the next guy signs. Bedard's going to beat him, and then you're going to see Celebrini beat him, and then you're going to see Fantilli beat him, and you're going to see a bunch of other guys.
Those are
that
centers,
go,
though.
Sure, but
Centers get paid more than wingers.
4 years
This
into
is-
this deal, he would be a tradable asset.
This is the new going rate in the NHL. Just as $8 million was too much for Kyrou, and now it's seen as not only a good deal, it's seen as a deal that you were able to get a huge return coming off of a bad season for Jordan Kyrou. I think it'd be fine eventually. Coming up next, we're going to be joined by the Cardinals CEO, Bill DeWitt III, here on BK and Ferrario. Big news yesterday for the St. Louis Cardinals as they announced some new structure within their leadership, including Bill DeWitt III taking over as the Cardinals CEO. Bill DeWitt III joins us now via the Kiley and Thompson hotline alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Brandon Kiley. Bill, appreciate the time, man. How are you doing today?
Hey, guys. Good, thanks.
Let's start with the obvious, and this is for any of our listeners that maybe missed the update yesterday. What tangibly changed for you and for the Cardinals yesterday with the announcement of the new leadership structure?
Yeah, so a couple of title changes, and then I'll talk about the structure. For Anuk Karunaratne, who's been our Senior VP of Business Development or Business Operations, his new title is President of Business Operations. So he'll have some more groups reporting to him and really kind of oversee that whole side of the operation. And then for me, I kind of go up one level and have both the business and the baseball sides report up through me. And of course, my dad still involved as chairman and, will be kind of with me in all those big decision-making situations.
How did these conversations develop over time, Bill? And what were those conversations like? Because I imagine when you guys brought Anuk in, there was some type of path towards this final destination for him.
Yeah, I mean, Anuk had really good experience in Toronto, and he was certainly thinking at some point he'd like to, run a team from a business standpoint, and this was an opportunity to be able to grow into that. So, he's been here for a little over 2 years, and this was a good time. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, where the model of having Chaim come in, a couple of years before he ended up taking that lead baseball role, we found that was a pretty good way to do it. I mean, these are pretty complex organizations. Not huge, but, a lot of people and a lot of moving parts. And for Chaim to be able to spend 1 year of really just doing his homework and meeting people, and then the second year really helping us do a bunch of new hires on the player development and other areas of the baseball operation. And then this year, jump into that key decision-making seat. We found that to be a helpful process and a good process, a healthy one. And you could sort of say that maybe we liked that and use that a little bit with Anuk too, because he's been here for a couple of years and knows everybody in all of our systems.
Bill, I remember talking with John Mozeliak. This is back when you guys made the title changes with he and Michael Gersh. And he said, hey, it's going to free me up to do some other things that I've wanted to do for a while, but based upon the day-to-day operations, I just didn't have the time to do it any longer. And then COVID hit, and obviously a bunch of different things changed. But it was for special projects kinds of things where he was going to look a little more big picture. I'm curious, with these title changes that were put in place yesterday, what does it do for you? What changes in your day-to-day?
I would say for me, I was, running the business side for 18 years, right? So I knew everybody in the business side and kind of what they did and what they were doing, and was able to obviously have my direct reports tell me about what needed to be decided on or this or that. I also, but I didn't do that as much on the baseball side. So I think I'll, add those oversight duties there and dig a little deeper into what's going on in that organization or that side of our organization, so that, I know where people are coming from when the decisions come up through the president of baseball operations with Chaim. There are some things that I've also done in the past that I'll just continue to do. For example, I do a lot of strategic work for downtown and downtown St. Louis. I'll still be very active with Ballpark Village. We're trying to get a third phase done there. Downtown security matters and other things. Some MLB issues that we're working through with them. There are always issues, but, I'm sort of a liaison there. My dad also continues to do that with his relationship with the commissioner and on some committees. So there's some other things that I did do that I'll continue to do, but just it's adding that piece of the baseball side.
Can you walk us through what some of that looks like, just for fans that are curious? Like, okay, Bill DeWitt III is now going to be more involved in the baseball side of the operation with the St. Louis Cardinals. What does that mean? What kind of things does that include?
Well, I mean, I've been involved as it relates to when key decisions need to be made. You know, when you think about the points in the season, like the trade deadline or the draft or the off-season hot stove decisions. But I think it was more as an observer at the table, if that makes sense. Going forward, I think, you know, with a better understanding of everybody in that side of the organization, you know, I think I'll be a little bit more active in making sure everybody is prepared to make those decisions. Like I said yesterday, you know, these are always pretty much collaborative decisions, the big ones, and be unlikely to do a big decision if you didn't have consensus among the key decision makers, me and my father, Chaim, and several of his direct reports. But, you know, sometimes when it's ultimately your call to make, you want to make sure you know everything there is to know about a decision. And so I might do a little bit more proactive research down through the organization to make sure I understand what all of those inputs are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Bill, without question, this has been a really exciting season. I mean, with the Tarps Off crew, with the team performing the way they are. And I remember us talking on opening day just about, you know, the expectations for the upcoming season. Obviously, the team has exceeded that. Has that benefited the team's ticket sale revenue in terms of how much the team has performed and the excitement surrounding them?
Yeah, we're ahead of budget, which is nice. The one thing you realize when you're in this business a long time is that the off-season pre-sale is so critical to your final ticket revenue number. So, like, for example, last year we did like 2.2 million in attendance. And I think we'll do that or better this year as a result of the good performance. And maybe, you know, if we go on a really good run and sort of playoff level as we keep this going, you could see that doing better, but you're not going to jump to 3 million, if you know what I'm saying. That's kind of a number that requires a really good sort of competitive environment for the off season and high expectations for what the team's going to do. So, but yeah, we're definitely ahead of where we were budget wise, and bodes well for, you know, us being able to just, you know, start coming out of where we are right now, hopefully quicker than planned.
Out of curiosity, has that changed at all, the TV subscription numbers for you guys?
Well, TV, as you know, has been a challenging area for us with the regional cable model.
We've heard a thing or two about it, Bill.
Say, you don't say.
Yes, exactly. So, but this was kind of a reset in the sense that we moved over to MLB Media. I think actually their broadcasts are great, quality's great, and really excited about the TV product right now. But from a revenue standpoint, you know, it's a little bit of a new model, so we are doing a little better than budget on that as well, which is nice. But it's, you know, down from its peak of a couple of years ago, obviously. So it's kind of we think we've gotten to our, call it, bottom point, and we can hopefully grow from there. And a big piece of that is the direct-to-consumer subscriptions, which, as you know, we haven't had that. We didn't have that until last year, and we're trying to grow that number for people that, you know, have cut the cord and don't have the basic cable bundle anymore. They can just direct stream it. So that's a number that we do well relative to how other teams do, but still has some room to grow.
Bill, since we're talking about the excitement of the team, obviously, as you would imagine, Cardinals fans, the moment the season begins, starts talking trade deadline. And I know we're still a ways away from that happening, but I know you and your dad spoke about this yesterday. Where do you feel like the team is at in terms of approaching this deadline? And I know Bill Jr. said yesterday that, there's not going to be an appetite other than bringing in somebody that's a part of the team's long-term future. Is that the mindset amongst everybody moving towards this deadline?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's out of school to say that we're not going to do something that compromises our long-term goals. I mean, just you heard him say it. He's been saying it since he got this role, and that'll be true at the deadline. It doesn't mean you can't get better at the deadline. Look, there's all kinds of ways the trade deadline can play out. You can do a straight baseball trade, where you just, trade a pitcher for a hitter or whatever, There are money deals that happen at the deadline. There are teams that are going for it and putting all their chips on the table. There are teams that are selling. And to be honest, there's still a ways to go. I mean, we're a month plus. I think August 2nd is the deadline. So, it's the kind of thing where, you might start having just conversations about if our role right now or if our position right now was frozen, what would you do? But the reality is you're waiting until probably a week out or even closer to make those final decisions.
If you were in this spot, though, Bill, since you put that opening out there, what do you think your view would be if this is where the Cardinals were at the deadline? You guys are currently tied for that last wild card spot with the Cubs.
Well, I'm going to hedge on that because
had to ask, Bill. Had to ask.
Well, so if you're at this spot, I don't know what other teams are offering, right?
Sure.
We're not at that point. If you're at that point and you're at this spot, and if teams are offering X, Y, and Z, and it's basically you've got a half painted picture here, and the picture doesn't fully come into focus for any team really until about a week out of it. So
let me ask it this way. Maybe this is a better way to present it, Bill. If the Cardinals are in a spot kind of similar to this at the trade deadline, we have a lot of people on the text line and YouTube chat viewers as well, and just listeners overall that have fallen for this team. And I know yesterday you had said this is as much fun as you've had watching Cardinals baseball in quite some time. Is there some calculus in that of, hey, this team's fun. Cardinals fans are engaged in the product. And if you were to, sell some of the better players on the roster, because there are, maybe some decent offers for these players, is there calculus on what that does for the fan interest over the course of the last couple of months of the season?
For sure. I mean, I think you never want to give up on a season. I mean, they're precious, right? You can... You never want to give up, and so I think, and also you want to consider fan sentiment, and but our fans are smart. They understand that whatever we do needs to have a lens towards getting better out into the future. But I mean, clearly, fans are taking to this team. We're taking to this team. I mean, these guys are. I mean, even like yesterday's game, it was sort of a dud. It was like, nothing's going. They scored those runs in the ninth. I mean, we put 3 up in the ninth trying to come back and almost did. I mean, there's a real tenacity to this group and a feeling that, they could pull off anything. So I'm excited about it. And I think, regardless of what happens deadline-wise, I feel like these guys are going to compete to the end no matter what happens.
Last question that I've got for Bill DeWitt III, Cardinals CEO. Just a logistics question here for you, Bill. I know we've had the discussion in the past about the stadium and some of the upgrades that are eventually on the horizon. Is there any update on that, whether it's timelines for it, any conversations that are currently taking place on what all is going to be necessary? Any update on the stadium side of things?
We are continuing to sort of work on our internal plan for what we want to do with that. And, that entails, we've worked with some architects and other planning folks. Our internal group's great. Matt Gifford runs our stadium ops group and has sized up kind of a long-term plan of what we're going to need to stay relevant and great for the next 20 years. But in terms of pulling it all together, we're probably a little ways out, meaning year or 2 years, something like that, before we really go into figuring it all out from a financing standpoint. The state did do that stadium deal a year and a half ago. Looks like the Royals are going to be using it. We want to watch how that works for them, for their new stadium project. Chiefs we were hoping they'd stay in the state, but looks like they're going to move across state borders, but stay in KC, but move across state lines. So there might be some things that we look to do to try to figure out what maps up perfectly with our needs. But it's a good starting point. And so there's a lot of work to do on how we sort of, utilize that legislation. We got to finish our plan. So, it's sort of half-baked at the moment, but it's definitely coming. And I would say within the next year or two, it feels like it's going to be starting to really be the big project we focus on.
Bill DeWitt III is the Cardinals CEO. That new title announced officially yesterday by the St. Louis Cardinals. Bill, we always appreciate you having the willingness to come on this show, answer some of our questions. I know the Cardinals fans appreciate that as well. We wish you and the team nothing but the best, and we'll talk with you again soon.
Okay, thanks, guys.
You got it.
Thanks, Bill.
Bill DeWitt III joining us here on 101 ESPN. Really appreciate him taking the time to do so. I thought the answer on the deadline asked a few different ways, but we eventually got to one that I think was real.
He's been listening to Doug Armstrong, though. I like it.
Yeah, listen, I get it. Yeah, it's a tough spot.
Yeah.
Because anything you say, it's one of the old thing, anything you say can and will be used against you. It's the same thing in the court of public opinion. Like, if Bill DeWitt III says today, we're going to be buyers at the trade deadline, and the Cardinals lose their next 15 games, well, they're not going to be buyers at the trade deadline. He's right. It depends on all of these different circumstances, and that is a fair viewpoint and a good viewpoint for the Cardinals to have.
Right.
I do appreciate, though, that he said, listen, you don't want to give up on a season. That is, of course, part of the calculus. And that's the thing that has grown frustrating for me, Alex, is so many seem just willing to give up on this season. Just willing to throw in the towel and saying, well, they're not winning the World Series anyway, so why even play the games? Well, if that's the view, you might as well simulate through the season and not play these games. Like, it's crazy to me. I just don't have that same viewpoint on it. But what was your biggest takeaway from our conversation with Bill DeWitt III?
It was the trade deadline. And I agree with everything that you're saying, because you spend 162 games getting excited about the team. You spend all of spring training getting excited about the players, and then you just trade them all away. But I also can appreciate the sentiment of we're not going to just forfeit the big plan to just capitalize on one season. Like, I appreciate that as a fan, because for the last 5 years, all I've been complaining about is, but you've treated this as just get in and anything can happen. And it's frustrating because you just don't do much and you just let it all play out and you fall apart. So I do appreciate that there's a bigger plan in place. Now, that doesn't mean I think you should sell if you're a top wildcard team, but I also don't believe that if you're a top or a second wildcard team, I don't think you should just omit your top prospects to go out there and get one guy that you lose in the second round. So I do appreciate the long-term plan being the biggest focus of the organization, and it sounds like that's what Bill DeWitt was saying with Chaim Bloom.
Yeah, the sense that I got is they will, if they're in it, they're willing to be maybe small buyers. And maybe I think what he was also kind of laying out as well is, hey, we could just do what Chaim kind of did in Boston, right? Which was we could do a little bit of buying while also doing a little bit of selling. If someone's going to blow us away with an offer on somebody, yeah, we may still pull the trigger, but that doesn't mean we're going to give up on the season completely, too. We may also try and go out there and add something as well. And I found it interesting. He said, hey, look, we're kind of over budget right now, and that's something that will help them, whether it be for the deadline or potentially in the offseason.
And to be clear on that, like the over budget, that means they're getting more revenue than they expected. They're not spending more than they expected.
Yes,
just to clarify that.
Yeah, you pulled a Chaim Bloom's losing his job there.
Yeah, my bad. But yeah, I found him saying that and being honest about that. You know, I thought he may just blow past that question of, hey, look, yeah, tickets, we're trying to grow. But hey, him saying we are doing better than expected will help the team in the long term and what they're trying to do, whether it be at the deadline or potentially in the offseason.
And he specifically said, hey, it could allow us to, push this thing forward a little quicker than expected. And that's he wasn't referencing this season necessarily, but big picture-wise.
I felt like an off-season comment.
Yeah, maybe they're able to add to the core a little bit more, a little quicker than what they otherwise had anticipated, which is a good thing if you're a Cardinals fan. That's for darn sure. All right, coming up here in about 15 minutes or so, we'll get back in to the St. Louis Cardinals. But next, I want to get back to the Blues. Alex, some news from the Toronto Maple Leafs that I want to get to on the other side, and we'll talk a little bit more about what lies ahead for them in the next 24 hours and just how much this could shape the future of the organization. We'll talk about that next here on BK and Ferrario. With Alex and T-Bone on BK. If you guys missed our conversation with Bill DeWitt III, you can check it out on the podcast page after the show today, 101ESPN.com and the free 101 ESPN app. We will talk to Tony Feltrin, who runs the draft for the St. Louis Blues, coming up at 1 o'clock. So be sure to stay tuned for that. 1 o'clock, Tony Feltrin joining us here on BK and Ferrario. All right, Alex, this news coming from the Toronto Maple Leafs general manager. He is speaking to the media today up in Toronto. He says they've made their decision on who they will be selecting with the number 1 overall pick. Added they have received some trade inquiries, but they are officially going to make the pick.
Man, I thought they were really going to move it. I wonder who they're going to select. Yeah, this was known when they I think they went to Gavin McKenna's hometown to take him out to dinner to talk with him about the draft. So you just knew all along. And honestly, I don't blame him for it. Like, Gavin McKenna has always been viewed as the number 1 pick. If he would have stayed in juniors and not went to college last year, he probably would have put up closer to 150, 160 points, which there would be no conversation. Gavin McKenna would be viewed as the next Connor McDavid, and everybody would be excited about him. Because he went to college is why there's been debate. But, yeah, this all along makes sense for Toronto. You go with the guy that you think is the best option.
There's also a tweet out today. This comes from Elliot Friedman based upon his 32 Thoughts comments. Jordan Binnington, if he's available, the Toronto Maple Leafs will check in on it. Yeah. So
I think they're going to check in on him. I think they're calling about Connor Hellebuck. I think they're probably going to talk to Sergei Bobrovsky. The one area they need most is to fix their goaltending. I don't think unless they're willing to give up a ton for Binnington, I don't think that happens. Because I think the Blues put a higher price on Jordan Binnington than what any team in the NHL puts on goaltenders. And that, to me, signifies they're just not going to move him unless somebody is going to pay. Somebody is going to have to outpay or overpay what Binnington is worth. And that's the only scenario I see him being moved.
I think he gets moved.
I think he's on the team at training camp, and I think he's on the team for the first night.
T-Bone, do you think Jordan Binnington is here on opening night?
I think he's here on opening night because I agree with what Alex said. I think the Blues will overvalue the goaltending position, and that will lead to them not making a move.
The other Blues conversation that I wanted to get into here, Alex, these next 24 hours feel really significant. I guess 36 hours feel really significant for shaping the next 5 years or so of what the St. Louis Blues are going to be. If you make one of these big moves, we've talked about it, and T-Bone is scared as hell about it. The risk associated with trading for Elias Pettersson, Jason Robertson, Matthew Nyes, any of these guys that are under team control but have big salaries associated with their names and big costs from a prospect/pick perspective, it's a big risk for the Blues. It's also a potential huge reward. Or you could try to move up and get Ivar Stenberg or get one of these top defensemen in the draft. Another big risk, because if you're wrong on that, well, you just gave up all this draft capital to get one player, and you were wrong, and you screwed it up. Or you could just sit and pick. And you've got 4 new first-round selections that have been added to the mix. Think about what it did for the Blues that they had Otto Stenberg and Theo Lindstein and a guy like Dalibor Dvorsky coming through their system. Mm-hmm. Now throw in, just for the hell of it, Adam Jiricek, right? Because that's basically the equivalent of what they're going to have here. Those 4 first-round selections that are now playing into your future. Imagine you add in another wave of that coming 2 to 3 years down the road. That's another opportunity for them. So these are all on the table. How much is this going to shape their future, Alex?
I mean, to me, this feels like it's going to be the start of either heading towards contention or back towards a rebuild. Because, like, it's funny, you laid out all of those scenarios, and I think the bigger risk for the Blues right now is trading assets to go get a guy that's under contract, more so than trading up to get the drafted second overall pick or taking all of those players. Because if there's one area that I have the utmost trust in this organization, it's Tony Feltrin and his team in terms of scouting these players. Going all the way back to Jimmy Snuggerud, going even beyond that when they looked at Zach Bolduc. Now you've got Dalibor Dvorsky and Justin Carbonneau and Adam Jiricek. Like, they have found gems in the draft. And now you're talking about 11, 15, 16, and 29. I would trust the scouting department more than the pro scouting department right now, which is a good thing to do. And I think Doug said it perfectly yesterday. There's two scenarios. You either exit this draft, people talking about how your pipeline is probably top 5 in the National Hockey League because you're selecting 6 players in the top 76 of this draft, or you're coming away with this with people believing that you are a better team than when you started this offseason because you traded for something that makes you better now. I think there's more risk involved with trading for the guy that has got a contract that's trying to make you better than just selecting 4 pieces, because those 4 pieces can help you trade for something next year when something is a lot more obvious. But I do believe that Alexander Steen's looking at this, and as patient as he is, he's feeling like there's got to be some type of push in the direction of developing these guys. And that's why I always go back to the center position. I feel like it's the weakest spot of this organization. You've got to have somebody there that can help continue the development of these wingers. The problem with all of this is who's the center that's out there that's worth trading the assets for.
Here are the Blues' top 35 selections. So players that they selected in the top 35 in the last decade. Jordan Kyrou, Tage Thompson, Klim Kostin, all right, miss.
Yeah, also they traded for that pick, and it was the back half of the draft, and they made that trade during the draft. So that was
But they wanted him.
They wanted him, yes. Yeah, you've scouted him.
Sometimes it happens. Yeah. You missed.
Also, Russian prospects are tough.
Robert Thomas. Dominic Bach missed, but immediately recognized it and traded him.
Yeah. And also, if I remember that draft, I don't think there was a whole lot of good beyond Dominic Bach.
Jake Neighbors, Zach Bolduc, Jimmy Snuggerud, Dvorsky, Stenberg, Lindstein, Jiricek, and Justin Carbonneau. They have missed twice in the last decade. And again, on one of those, you immediately flipped it for an opportunity to get a better player. And that is the part of this that I think is going under the radar. Tage Thompson was included in a deal for Ryan O'Reilly. Dominic Bach was included in a deal for Justin Falk. Zach Bolduc was included in a deal for Mayu. You don't have to keep these guys in your system. You can draft players tomorrow night, and then at next year's trade deadline or next year in the offseason, you are in the position that Utah has been in, where they're in every conversation. If there's a really good player that becomes available, Utah's in on it because teams want them to be in on it, given how much prospect capital they have. Because then the Blues will have Adam Jiricek and Mayu and all of the wingers that are already on the roster, plus Carbonneau, plus these 4 first-round selections. That puts you into a really good spot where even if it's not Nyes or one of these other Robertson, one of these other players that are available right now, you can continue to be in the mix for the next star that becomes available. So, man, it's hard to overstate the value of what these next 36 hours represent for the St. Louis Blues. They could legitimately change the trajectory of the franchise because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And real quick, just the note on Dominic Bach, that was the last draft that Bill Armstrong ran. After Dominic Bach was Tony Feltrin, so go 2019 and on, and that's basically all Tony Feltrin's team, and that's a lot of the guys you're talking about right now. It really does shape this, and it's why when you look around the landscape of what's available via trade, there's names. But when you sit down and really think about it, do those make sense for the long-term future of the Blues? It's why we talked about Matthew Nyes. It's debatable, and I'm happy to have that debate. The same with Jason Robertson and Mason McTavish that I know a lot of people were talking about. That one scares me. Elias Pettersson. I get that people are scared of that, but it's something that I think you have to discuss. It's why, to me, the one that makes the most sense is the second overall pick. Because, yes, you're taking a risk, but you're taking a risk with your scouting department, knowing what they're talking about. You're bringing in a guy that does have that superstar talent. He doesn't fix the hole that you have at the center position, but you can address that as you move forward. But if you can go out there and get the game-altering talent that Ivar Stenberg could become, you set yourself up for, okay, now we're ready to start looking at this saying, where's our weakest spot? It's what they did when they did that offseason of going to get Shen and then O'Reilly and Pat Maroon and Perron. They had their team in place. They said, where's our weakest spot? They said the center position. They made trades to get Shen. They made trades to get O'Reilly, and they said, we're ready to make the run. That's where, I'm not saying the Blues are ready to make the run in 2 years if they get Ivar Stenberg, but you start to have the landscape of where you want to go with this. It's why, as much as I want to see them make a move, I am not going to be disappointed if they make all 4 picks in this year's draft.
Yeah.
Because I think you could come out of this draft, if they're if it falls in your favor and you're creative enough, I think you could exit this draft with a potential second-line center, a potential top 6 winger, and a potential top 4 defenseman.
It's pretty good, man.
To add to Carbonneau on top of Jiricek, on top of Dvorsky and Otto Stenberg, and a couple of Russian guys in Buchelnikov and Korotky. Like, their pipeline is set. And you feel good about it. And guess what? Next year, when you've got 3 guys that are performing at the NHL, AHL, and college level, and you need a center, and there's a guy that makes the utmost sense for your team, you're the team that they're calling for, just like you mentioned with Utah.
It is 12:35. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Coming up at 1 o'clock, Tony Feltrin joins us to discuss how he views this year's NHL draft. He's in charge of the draft. He joins us on BK and Ferrario in about 30 minutes. But coming up next, is this year different for the Cardinals because they have the exact same record as they did at the same point a year ago? How do they avoid what came next? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. Cardinals fell to the Diamondbacks yesterday 9-4. They've dropped 2 of the first 3 games in this 4-game set. They go for a split tonight. 6:45 first pitch. Zach Gallen on the mound for Arizona. Michael McGreevy will get the start for St. Louis. And if you missed it earlier in the show, we had a chance to catch up with the Cardinals CEO, Bill DeWitt III. If you missed that conversation, you can check it out on the podcast page later on today at 101ESPN.com or via the free 101 ESPN app. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. You'll be saying, I love my windows.
Is this year going to be different? Because last year, at this same time, the Cardinals had the exact same record, 42-36. What came next was not fun. That was the get rid of Eric Fetty, get rid of Miles Michaelis, shoot this team into the sun period of the St. Louis Cardinals season. They, after this point, lost 2 in a row against Chicago, got shut out in both of those games. Then they went to Cleveland, and you may remember that Sonny Gray start, that Friday night. It was beautiful. He was thanking Pedro Pages. They were having a great time. Had one of the best starts by a Cardinal in the last 5 to 10 years. They then swept the Cleveland Guardians in that series.
If I remember after that, BK was telling us that he's all in. I think the conductor hat went on about that time.
And then on Monday, they got shut out by the Pittsburgh Pirates. And then continued to get shut out the next 2 games in Pittsburgh. Had a terrible weekend, 4th of July weekend at Wrigley, and then it all fell apart. Like from there, it was just an absolute disaster, and they get to the second half of the season, and it's very clear, all right, this is not a team that you can continue to build around. They ended up below 500 by August the 3rd, which is this year's trade deadline. Alex, do you have a fear of the same thing happening again? Because the schedule's about to get tough. Derek Gould mentioned this when he was on with us, 2 days ago? He's right. You're about to play Atlanta 6 times, Chicago 3 times, and Milwaukee 5 times prior to the end of the first half of the season. Is it happening again? Or are they going to be able to avoid what took place last year?
On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being like I'm ready to ish my pants for how scared I am, I'm at about like a 6. I mean, look, this month alone, they've proven that when a series goes poorly for them, they can pull themselves back up, right? They lose the Rangers, they sweep the Reds, then they beat the Mets. They lose the Twins, they beat the Padres. But now, and barring what takes place with this Diamondbacks one later this evening, you lose to the Royals, which is an ugly loss. And then if you lose 3 or 4 to the Diamondbacks, I mean, we said it going into it. This is only a series I feel like you can learn bad things about, not good things about, because it's a team that's in the same race as you and their pitching has been awful. And your pitching hasn't been very good in this neither. And then you're going into the Marlins, which I hope that's one of those that you get right with. And then is where the schedule really makes you concerned, because if you lose to the Diamondbacks on top of losing to the Royals, and God forbid you lose to the Marlins as well, I just don't see where the light at the end of the rainbow is, because the Braves, even though the Braves are struggling right now,
Light
they
at
don't
the end
have
of the rainbow.
Yeah. You don't see the light at the end of the rainbow.
No,
I think
light
in
at the
that
end of the tunnel.
No, the light.
No. Yeah,
No.
no, I know.
The treasure at the end of the rainbow, the pot.
Master's degree from Lindenwood, working great right there.
I don't think you need a master's degree for that, man.
You might need more, apparently.
I think it's the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
'Cause
No.
if you're seeing a
There's a pot of
rainbow,
gold
there's
at the end
light.
of a rainbow.
Is a reflection
No,
of light.
but when you're seeing the rainbow, there was a storm, and so there's going to be
there's now
light at
light
the end
that
of
comes
it.
through the sky. That's how a rainbow
Anyways.
flows.
You say tomato, I say tomato.
goodness.
Regardless, I'm right. So
Apparently
let's
I
move
say
forward
tomato,
with
you
this.
say potato.
No, I say per-tater. Anyway, the Braves one, even though they're struggling, is a little concerning. The Cubs, that is one I guess you can hope to get right back. But I think where it really falls off is the Brewers and Braves at home. Like, I think you lose 4 of 5 against the Brewers with how things are going for you. And if you go into the All-Star break by losing 4 series, I don't know how anybody could convince themselves that this team is going to keep their spot for the wild card.
I worry about the pitching. That's my concern. I think this offense is legit. I don't have a whole lot of concerns about it. I mean, even in these last 2 games where you just haven't played all that well, you scored 3 and 4 runs. It's not as though this is a team that's just completely giving up. The 2 games over the weekend against Kansas City, you scored 5 and 6 runs in those. Those are games you should be able to win. You know, if you score 6 runs, you should win consistently. And I think they're going to be able to continue to put up decent numbers on the scoreboard. It's about keeping them low on the other side. This was always our concern about the 2026 Cardinals, is do they have the pitching to be able to keep the numbers low enough to give this offense time? And the answer lately has been no. And like with Liberatore in this rotation right now, that's a real concern. With Kiley in the rotation right now, I know he had a good game the other night. It's a concern that the next time out he could go 3 innings. And the bullpen is showing some cracks right now. So that's my real concern. And man, the timing is not great. Because for all the issues with Chicago, and they've got a lot of them, it's an offense that's decent. They can hit the ball. You look at Atlanta, I've got my concerns about their pitching, especially when we get into October. I don't know that they're as good as their record indicates. The offense is, though. In Milwaukee, who I don't buy this at all, the offense has been good, man. Like, there's no ignoring it for at least the regular season. They've just been really good so far this season. So I've got some concerns that the pitching is not going to be able to hold up. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be looking at something pretty similar to what it was a year ago. And by the time you get to that trade deadline, you could be 3-4 games back. And that might be exactly what the doctor ordered for Chaim Bloom to look at it and say, that's why I'm selling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel a little bit better about where they were at this point compared to last year, and I think it's because of what you said about the offense, right? They finally have something that they at least do at an elite level. Like, I just went back and looked on the exact same date what they were 1-4 in their batting order, because that's really what's carrying the offense is 1-4. Though 5-9 has been better since they made those roster moves. Last year at this time, they were 17th in average, 1-4, second this year in Major League Baseball. On-base percentage, 16th. This year, second. Slugging percentage, they were 26th. This year, they're 7th. OPS, they were 25th. This year, they're 3rd. That's the thing that will have to potentially carry them, because to your point, the offense is doing its job lately. Now, they're scoring a little bit later in these games, the last couple, but they've done their job for the most part. The question is, can the pitching just get back to average?
And I don't care when you score. I care that you score.
Exactly.
And they're scoring.
And it just comes down to, okay, can this pitching staff be average? You've seen a little bit of regression coming from McGreevy, but Palante's been good, and the peek under the hood seems to say, hey, this is about what he should be, right? So I don't have much fear there. I think it comes down to, are they going to be willing to make the move on Libby if he keeps pitching this way? Because if they will, they try and make it, and they say, let's go to Dobbins, or let's try Quinn Matthews or Bryson Motts, there's a chance those guys can come in and help eliminate one of these new pieces of fat that has emerged on the roster that they've done a good job of cutting off. Now, the bullpen is a fair concern, because that one, I don't know if they've got a bunch of internal options. Like, they could try Gastelum, but that's really the only one you've got to continue to try. But I feel a little bit better about where they're at because of the offense. That doesn't mean it's going to work out in the long run, but that's why I feel better.
And you mentioned 1-4, and for the full season, that's been what's carrying you. Lately, though, it's been everybody, man. Mm-hmm. Like, the entire lineup's been pretty damn good for the most part. One guy that's kind of been the exception to that is Jimmy Crooks. I don't know what's going on there. The batted ball data was really good early on, and now it's kind of starting to crater again.
Just eat it with that, because your other option is Pedro Pages. So
agreed. It is what it is.
You're going to get one bat that's not good.
It's been surprising to see just how much he's been struggling. By the way, just as an aside, this is the point of caution for Joshua Baez, because Crooks was tearing the cover off the baseball down at AAA almost every bit as well as what we've seen from Joshua Baez. And now at the major league level in the month of June, Jimmy Crooks is batting 182 with a 575 OPS and has very clearly been the least productive member of your lineup.
But Blaze Jordan's been great, so there's a positive.
Awesome. No doubt. And that's the opposite side of things, right? Where Blaze Jordan, there were questions about the defense. I would say the defense has been good.
Yeah, really, yesterday was his only blunder that I can really think of.
He did exactly what I thought he was going to do. You make the plays with the balls that come to you, but don't expect him to be Scott Rowland over there or Nolan Arenado diving for balls.
Which you don't expect.
Yeah, that's why they have him hug the line. You got Mason Wynn next to you.
If he was hitting like Jimmy Crooks, that becomes a problem. Yeah. But when you're hitting the way that he has, where he's got a 800 OPS, all right, cool. Yeah, we can live with this. Anyways, back to my original point. The 1-4 was carrying you, but now you look at it in the month of June, Jordan Walker's having a quote-unquote down month. In his down month, he's at a 760 OPS. Pretty damn good. Burleson's been fantastic. Weatherholt's been great. Mason Wynn has actually upped his game in June. He's batting 275 this month. Lars Nootbaar has been fantastic since his return. Jose Fermin is giving you everything you could possibly ask for. Yeah. Blaze Jordan has been really good. Nobody's talking about Nathan Church right now, which is the guy you'd probably be taking out of the lineup in the event that you call up somebody like a Joshua Baez.
War and how he's your future center fielder.
Holy crap, man. He's batting 340 with an 890 OPS this month. And even Nelson Velazquez, who's cooled down, OPS over 700 this month. So
Just don't put him in left field.
yeah, man. It's everybody. The entire lineup 1 to 9 is giving you a chance right now. It's just a question of if this pitching can hold up. If they can, I think you're going to avoid what you did a year ago. But it's really about, like, what's your level of confidence in the pitching? That's going to determine your level of confidence in what the team can do to stay afloat. Because it's all they got to do. They need 6 more good weeks. If you can get that, I think you'll add. But can you get that? I don't know. That's the real question.
It's a brutal 6 more weeks, though.
This is the tough part because the pitching has gone cold. I mean, even bad bullpens go through hot streaks, right? And I think there's a fair argument that may have happened with the Cardinals bullpen in the month of May. The problem is there's no slump busters coming, right? Like, you don't have a series where it's like, okay, at least the Rockies are coming to town. No, it is what you referenced. It's the Braves, the Cubs, the teams that have really good offense. I mean, even Miami, they've got a good pitching staff, and their offense has been a little bit better than expected. They come to town this weekend.
And T-Bone, to that point, you just played your slump busters.
Yeah, and you struggled.
And you lost one of them and potentially lose the second one.
Well, Minnesota was supposed to be that. You lose
KC
2 out of
was supposed to
3.
be that.
KC was definitely that, and you lose 2 out of 3 there as well. And when that happens, it sets you back. That's where you create that extra wiggle room. It's why we talked about that stretch of games being so important. We said, hey, if you win these series, you can go 500 or a little below against Atlanta, Chicago, Milwaukee, and you'll be fine. The problem is they didn't win those series. And so now it puts more pressure when they do go up against these either division leading or wild card contending teams from the National League. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. In 15 minutes, we'll be joined by Tony Feltrin, who runs the draft for the St. Louis Blues. He joins us here on BK and Ferrario in a little more than 10 minutes. But next, time for the junk drawer here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario back with you to talk about my friends over at Classic Air Care, heating, cooling, plumbing, and electric. That's right. They can take care of all of those areas for you and your home. They've been making people comfortable since 1926. And the biggest thing when it comes to a company like this, like Classic Air Care, is you want quality of work. You want guys that are coming out that know what they're doing, and that's technicians that have been doing this for 30 years. You want incredible customer service that responds to you within 24 hours, because how many of us have had to call somebody to get some help with something at your home and you don't hear from them for 72 hours. That's not Classic Air Care. They've got 9,000 5-star reviews. They've won this STL Headliner's Best Heating and Cooling Company for 3 straight years, and you're getting that personal experience from people who have been working in this business for 30 years. So you get a free service call with qualifying repairs. So give them a call today, have them come out and just check your HVAC system. Maybe you need to make sure that it's clean and good to go for this upcoming heat wave that's about to take place this weekend. That's where Classic Air Care can help you. Call them today, schedule online, check out their maintenance agreement. Just do me a favor, tell them Alex Ferrario sent you. That's Classic Air Care and classicaircare.com.
We can all agree the last week of Cardinals baseball has not been particularly fun to watch. They've lost 5 of their 7 games, and mostly the pitching has been pretty atrocious.
Yeah, and you lost to the Royals, which, that's the worst team you could lose to, am I right?
You're not wrong there. It could always be worse, though, Alex.
Oh, yeah? How?
You could be the Miami Marlins, where a guy breaks the record for most strikeouts in franchise history, and nobody at the stadium recognizes it. Take a listen.
He struck him out. And there it is. Sandy Alcantara stands alone as Miami's all-time new strikeout leader.
They haven't really acknowledged that yet here in the ballpark. He knows. I think he was aware of that coming in, and he looks around to see if they put on the scoreboard. They did not.
They still have the count as 1 ball, 3 strikes.
Look at Clayton. He is not happy, and neither is that Marlins dugout. They're telling the fans to stand up and applaud Sandy.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it out there. See, the problem I have, most of the fans here tonight should know that without having to look at the scoreboard.
And now he's doffing his cap, so the fans in the know know. That's great.
A lot of problems. It wasn't put up on the scoreboard right away, which it should have been, and a lot of fans who came here should have known it anyway. Little things like that irritate me, Kyle.
I know they do. I understand.
Tell me you're not a baseball city without telling me you're a baseball city. Things like that irritate me, Kyle.
Can you imagine here in St. Louis, like,
that would never happen.
Adam Wainwright became the 2nd leading strikeout artist in the history of the organization. It was a huge deal
because
here.
Everybody in the stadium came for that reason.
Yeah.
Like, people are going to Miami because what are we going to, I don't know, I'm sick of going to the beach and the bars. Let's just go to a baseball game.
I don't think many people are saying that. So that was the Miami side of things. In their division, though, last night it was even worse for the New York Mets. Take a listen.
And he hits it sharply at Vientos, and he boots it for yet another error. Unbelievable. The 6th infield error for the Mets tonight. I mean, what do you say at this point? I mean, this team is in the depths of despair. Can't get starting pitching to hold the other team at bay. Struggling with their offense. And now the defense falls apart. 6 infield errors. Unprecedented.
Good God.
Other than that, though,
Simeon made 2 of them and said, I got to go on the IL. My hip hurts. He got placed on the IL today.
They traded a pitcher last night, too, said, screw this. It's not even worth it.
You
Their
don't come
manager
back from
said
that.
after the game, this was an embarrassing performance for us. All of us are pissed.
Wasn't Keith Hernandez like losing it for Pete Crow Armstrong for how good he was? And they were like, we traded this guy?
T-Bone, we've got that
Javi
audio if you
Baez,
pull it real
right?
quick.
They traded him for Javi Baez?
For 2 months of
Why
Javi
do I not
Baez.
remember that?
Yeah, well, because at the time, PCA wasn't what he is today. Let's go ahead and take a listen here. This is Keith Hernandez as he's watching a replay, Alex, of PCA running the bases.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Well, not only fast, but cuts the bases perfectly. I think one of the worst trades in a long while by the Mets. Well, they got 6 good weeks out of Javi Baez, and whoopee. Now they've got to watch this guy.
He said whoopee. I love it when a guy just issues on the team like that.
Oh, boy.
Oh, poor Keith.
So, yeah, it's been a rough week for the St. Louis Cardinals, but at least you're not the Mets, and at least you're not the Marlins.
Whoopee.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. Coming up next, Tony Feltrin runs the draft for the St. Louis Blues. He's going to join us here on BK and Ferrario.
Wow.
That's Alex Ferrario. I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We're happy to go out to the Collier and Thompson hotline to be joined by the Blues Director of Amateur Scouting, Tony Feltrin, in what is a very important 36 hours for the organization. Tony, we appreciate you stepping away from what I would assume is a day filled with a lot of meetings. How you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Tony, I would imagine like this time of the year, your phone's just never on silent mode, right? Like even when you sleep, you probably have to keep it on loud in case somebody calls you.
Yeah, we're always aware of a call from Steiner or Doug.
Tony, can you tell us a little, in all seriousness, what is today like? What are you guys doing as you prep for tomorrow night's draft?
Well, it's ongoing. We've had meetings here this morning once again, talking scenarios, finalizing the order of the list. That's ultimately on our side on the amateur department, having the list in order for whatever scenario is presented to us by Doug and Alex.
So Tony, Doug's talked a lot about how, you guys go into these meetings and you have your tiers list, you have your rankings of these individual players. With how many different scouts you have on your staff that are around doing this year round, how many of these conversations and meetings that you guys have turn into a little bit of debates in terms of, hey, no, this guy should be higher up, and how do you guys get to those final decisions on those rankings?
Well, for sure, scouts are passionate about the players that they know best and believe in. So we take into account the opinions. Scouts are all expected to voice their opinion. End of the day, the consensus of the group is what rules the roost. And in the creation of the list, we've got quality people that have had good success here formulating the list, and as a group, it's the final decision.
Tony, over the last 5 or 10 years, we've seen a lot of new tools that have been incorporated with scouting, whether that's AI, some of the analytics that have been incorporated. How much does that play into some of your conversations nowadays in those rooms as well?
On the synopsis on every player, it's certainly presented to us what the analytical the group views the players' strengths and weaknesses, creates great debate. So it's a great talking point for the how and why on all these players.
Tony, we had Doug with Curbs and I last year after the first round of the draft, and we were talking Justin Carbonneau, and I remember asking him just about the traits that you as your front office staff and scouting department look for in players, and he mentioned, hockey sense and hockey IQ and just work ethic on the ice. Are those the qualities that your staff puts at the highest regard, or are there other qualities that you're searching for when you're going through these rankings?
Yeah, there's certainly paramount, but it's a combination of what makes a player, and it's character, along with hockey sense, competitiveness. It's a whole gamut of traits that allow players to maximize their ability. So.
Blues Director of Amateur Scouting, Tony Feltrin, joining us here on 101 ESPN. Tony, with this draft specifically, every draft's a little different. Can you give us a little bit of a rundown on how this one sets up towards the top? What can fans expect from some of the top picks this year? Is there a position that stands out as being super strong? How do you kind of view this from the 30,000-foot view?
Yeah, I think right from the beginning of the season, really, it was a strong grouping where we had a lot of players, a real good crop of solid defensemen, good upside potential. But there's good depth through the middle part of the first round, without a doubt. NHL players fully expected to have good, strong careers. Is it the Celebrini McDavid years? No, don't view that. But once again, good players.
I've heard just from multiple people, Tony, that this one feels like it's the deepest it's been in some time. Is there a comparable draft for you that you remember? Like the 2008 one is one that I've heard brought up because of how many great defensemen were taken that year. But is there another year in terms of the draft depth that you can recall?
Yeah, I mean, every year is its own. I wouldn't put a specific year in comparison to it, but once again, it's pretty solid for the depth of the prospects.
Tony, are you guys going through, I know when I've talked to people in the NFL, for example, some of the GMs will have like a mock draft that they do on their own, whether that's intel that they have or based upon needs and everything, and then that allows them to go through who the players are that they expect to drop to certain spots, whether that means trade-ups or at their own selections. Is that the kind of thing that you guys run through around this time of the year as well?
Yeah, we're aware of what teams' tendencies are, what their likelihood, if they've drafted undersized forwards the past 2 drafts, that there's a pretty good likelihood they're going to stay away from that this coming draft. Those type of things are well known. Of course, the mock drafts are always out there by so-called experts throughout the year, and you're available to see that. That doesn't have a huge bearing on our final list, but it makes a conversation point as to, was there a source that tipped them off that this team might in fact have interest in this player? So.
I'm always curious about that, Tony. Do you guys see the mock drafts and just kind of roll your eyes at it because it's completely different than what you and your staff have put together?
Yeah, there's usually some pretty good variance with a number of players.
Tony Feltrin joining us for just another couple of minutes here on 101 ESPN, joining us in what is a very busy week for the St. Louis Blues. Tony, you guys have 4 first-round picks. You certainly know that already. We've talked with Doug Armstrong over the past week or two about the possibility of moving up and all of the different ways that you could utilize those first-round picks. When you think about what could be there for you at 11, 15, 16, 29 versus what you could get if you package some of those things together to move up in the draft, how do you and the group go through the value of a player at 2, 3, 4, 5 versus what you could potentially get at 11, 15, 16, for example?
Well, again, it's through the conversation. Doug and Steiner are expected to key in and understand what the guys believe. The ultimate players that we're targeting of those mid-first round picks are going to be in their end of their career. So we've made the player description and the projections on those top end players. So in due course, those guys are aware of what we're anticipating they can become.
Tony, final one that I wanted to ask you, because, of course, this is the last draft that Doug Armstrong is going to be in charge of with Steen taking over. Just some thoughts on Doug Armstrong's tenure with the Blues, and you've been associated with him, and also looking towards Alexander Steen taking over this role and how impressed you've been with him.
Yeah, obviously, Army arrived 1 year after myself with the organization here. It's been great working with them both in pro capacity and on the amateur side. And as I've said previously, he's allowed me the opportunity, the autonomy to run the amateur staff, but with great insight and always the willingness to poke and prod and ask the right questions to how and why as to where we've come on this decision. So it's been a pleasure working with Doug. He challenges yourself and the entire staff, certainly expects results. Believe we've delivered those. So certainly thankful for the time with him. And as far as Steiner, it's thus far been great. Certainly great perspective on the game and some good discussions on hockey. And that relationship will only continue to expand and grow.
How much value does it place for you guys that Steen has so much insight into the Swedish players in particular?
He can text or pick up the phone on a source for sure. Obviously, we have a Swedish-based amateur scout in Steph Elvenes that's connected with lots of good sources also. But yeah, Steiner knows a lot of people in hockey, ex-players, managers, Swedish Federation people. So good source for sure.
Tony Feltrin is the Blues Director of Amateur Scouting. He certainly has a busy job this week as the Blues have 4 first-round picks tomorrow night. You'll be able to hear the 101 ESPN draft coverage tomorrow night starting at 6. Alex Ferrario will be a part of that for the St. Louis Blues. Tony, appreciate the time. Thank you so much for hopping on with us today. We wish you nothing but the best tomorrow night.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Tony.
That's Tony Feltrin joining us here on 101 ESPN. Appreciate his time in what is going to be an incredibly busy week for the Blues.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I completely like, obviously he's the head of amateur scouting, but he's been with the organization since Doug Armstrong's been here. So you've had this individual working alongside these guys for a long period of time. So I'll be fascinated. Obviously, he's not a part of the trade conversations. All he can do is show them the list and the rankings and who they believe is there. He's a part of deciding, is it worth giving up all of these picks to go get that guy? But for a guy like that, it seems like they know who they want. And if Tony Feltrin goes to Doug Armstrong and Alex Steen and says, look, this guy's a difference maker, you feel like Steen and Army are going to make every move possible to try and make it happen. So I'll be fascinated to see kind of what the inside is once they make those selections, if they make any selections tomorrow night.
As I mentioned, Alex will be on the coverage tomorrow night right here on 101 ESPN. It is the 101 ESPN Last Minute Blues podcast special edition for the NHL Draft Show. It all begins tomorrow at 6. The Draft Show is supported by Jules on Hampton. David Pagnotta, the quick update on Connor Hellebuck, says Florida continues to push for him. They are potentially going to include Luosterainen in their attempts to acquire Connor Hellebuck. He also mentioned that Buffalo is a team to watch for Hellebuck as well.
If I'm Buffalo, I make that move right now. I don't think Florida's best chance to get Hellebuck, in my opinion, was that 9th overall pick. Now, obviously, they got a pretty damn good player in return when they got Brady Tkachuk, but I don't think Luosterainen is nothing more than a third-line winger or a third-line center. And I don't know how that makes the Winnipeg Jets better by getting a third-line center for the guy that legitimately is the identity of your team. Buffalo makes a ton of sense. You've got the 4th overall pick. That's the best-case scenario if you're the Winnipeg Jets to get something of quality back in return, because in this spot they would have the 4th overall pick and the 6th overall pick, the 8th overall pick is what they have. So 2 picks in the top 10, 1 in the top 5 if I'm Winnipeg. That's a move that you make every day.
This one comes from Pierre LeBrun on Connor Hellebuck.
He's been traded to the Florida Panthers.
Are trying. They've had a number of conversations. Anton Lundell, though, Florida's not trading him. I have a hard time coming up with a package that Florida could entice Winnipeg with.
Again, this is not the NBA where you can put like 4 future first-round picks and get the deal done. Like, this has to be something that makes Winnipeg, puts them in a position to play well, because if they make a move and trade Hellebuck and you get a first-round pick in 2029 back, Kyle Connor and Gabe Velarde and Mark Scheifele and Josh Morrissey are going to be like, what are we doing here? And then you're going to have another Edmonton Oilers 2.0 of do they want out? So I don't think Florida is an option. It brings back to the Binnington conversation. I don't know what they've got that the Blues would want, because as much as I think Luosterainen's good, man, you got another center in McMichael now. So now you got to be talking about higher upside, and they don't have that anymore.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up next, it is that time of the week. It is time for Believe It or Not. 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. Believe It or Not next here on BK and Ferrario.
This right here is why Jason Robertson will be coming to St. Louis. He
Or
loves
Connor
this song.
McDavid.
Ooh. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so
Free,
Flying away on a wing and a prayer.
Who could it be? Probably Pedersen.
Believe it or not, it's just
I
me.
got Pedersen in there.
But maybe Stenberg.
And possibly Robertson or not.
That one was also for you, Army.
And maybe 4 picks.
Possibly Werenski.
No, that's not happening.
I
They said
learned
they're not
about
doing
him
anything until
this
yesterday.
year.
Maybe somebody else that we're not talking about.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Believe It or Not. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are believing it or not here on 101 ESPN. All right, Alex, let's start out with this. Believe it or not, the Blues will pick in the top 5 tomorrow night.
Believe it. I'm saying if there's a move, they're moving up. And I think they're moving up to number 2. I'm going to put my flagpole down on that one. It's happening.
I'll say
I said
believe it.
flagpole, not pole, okay? Calm down over there. Jeez.
I don't need to know about your poll. I'm going to say believe it. I will say they will move up to number 2. All this stuff coming out of San Jose, to me, it screams Greer's leveraging it, and I think the Blues might cave.
He did this last year, too, where he was like, I'm not going to take this guy. I'm taking this guy. And then he took the complete other person.
I'm going to say not. I don't think they pick in the top 5. I would love it. I think it would be super fun and exciting. But no, I do not think they end up giving up the assets that it's going to take.
All right, let's go piggyback off of that one. Believe it or not, boys, there will be another new face on the Blues roster after this weekend.
That I believe.
Not a draft player.
I don't know who it's going to be.
Acquisition.
I think they're going to make a trade.
Yeah.
I just don't know who it is.
Yeah, I'll say believe it, because even if it's not the trade up to number 2, I'm kind of with BK. I could see where they move, 1 or 2 of those middling picks and 29 to go get somebody. So I would say believe it. I mean, the way Army's talking, they scream a team that is actively trying to get something done.
Even if it's not like a big deal, maybe they just say, hey, we want an extra third line winger. We want to add in some more insurance, and we're gonna gain an asset by trading away Suter, and we're gonna bring in somebody that can take that spot in our lineup that has a little higher upside for us, that can be around longer. I think they're gonna do something with 15, 16, or 29 at a minimum.
Yeah, I do too. I think Connor McMichael is the first of what I think is probably 3 new faces on this roster before the start of next season.
You can add McMichael into this that I'm going to ask you here. Believe it or not, the Blues will add somebody that scores 30 goals this season.
So, like, since the end of last year, somebody that is acquired will have 30-plus goals.
I'm going to say not believe it, because I don't think McMichael gets there, because I think they're going to use him as a center, which I think is going to utilize other guys around him. If you would have said 20-goal scorer, I would have said believe it.
Yeah.
Oh, Tone.
Whoa, easy.
Sorry.
If every time I bring up a guy that's going to be a 20-goal scorer, you guys are like, oh, my God, Alex is getting it again.
I like how you didn't even recognize that.
I felt that in the moment where I was like, yo, chill.
He even furrowed his eyebrows on that one, too.
I said to myself, hey, real
Did you see his eye? He's like,
I know.
Well, yeah. Like,
I know.
Screw you, buddy. Jesus. Let's go back to talk about how they need to move on from Liberatore.
I don't know if you've had that bad of a moment in a while.
That was rough, dog.
Yeah, I apologize. I should up the dosage. I
almost spit coffee all over this computer. That's what my wife says every time I have attitude.
30-plus is aggressive. 20-plus, though, like, yeah.
20 is obvious. That's a stupid answer. Move on.
I'll say not believe it for 30-plus.
I would say not believe it as well, because I think the guy that you'd be bringing in to do that would be like Robertson, and I don't know if they're swinging that big. I don't know that Pedersen does that if they acquire him.
He does. 30 and 70 is what he does.
Michael, I agree. I think you're hoping more for 20. I think it's more likely they add someone that's like 25 plus, not all the way up to 30.
Now, if McMichael's a winger and they acquire like Pedersen, I could see McMichael doing it if you're using him as a winger. But
for 30?
Yeah. I mean, he almost got 30 a couple of years ago when he was exclusively a winger. I just think if you're using him as the center, you're not worried about his goals as much.
Man, if they get him to a 30-goal scorer, team could be real interesting.
Kyrou couldn't do it. McMichael obviously could.
All right, from Dickie O from Cedar Hill.
Cedar Hill, my neck of the woods. Hey, Dickie O.
Believe it or not, the Cardinals will win the World Series before the Blues make it to the second round of the playoffs. I'll say not. Second round's just not that high of a bar to clear.
Nearly made the second round 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's why I would say not. Getting to a World Series is hard, especially when the Dodgers window doesn't seem to be closing anytime soon.
From the 314, believe it or not, the Blues will make a big move at some point, but it's not something that you've discussed over the last 48 hours. Man, that'd be tough.
hard.
We have brought up a lot of names.
The only thing we haven't brought up is defensemen. So if they acquire a defenseman that's not Zach Werenski, then I'd say
Like
believe
if
it.
it's Carolina, what's his name?
Nikishin? No, but we brought him up.
Yeah, we did.
If it's Owen Power from Buffalo or, something like that, that's where I see the scenario. But I'd say not believe it.
I could see them doing something that we haven't discussed. I mean, they're
it's
in
not
on
like
everything.
Army to let
They
something.
always do.
Well, and it's not like Army to let something slip. So everything that's getting reported, it's coming from somewhere else, not out of St.
Yeah,
Louis.
and everybody's tight-lipped right now after the Parayko incident last year.
Believe it or not, they trade
What
Parayko
happened?
to get assets to move to the number 2 spot.
So
they move Parayko and then move up.
I'd say not believe that. I think if they move Parayko, it is to move to the 2nd spot.
Yeah, I would say not believe it as well, but man, that would be wild because that would be acquiring another first-round pick, I would assume. And you're talking about 5 first-round picks potentially in this
Hasn't been
year's
done
draft.
since 1976 when the Canadians had that many.
It would be wild, but yeah, I agree. I think he would be in the package.
And
to move
imagine
up.
if they would have pulled off that Parayko trade with Buffalo and he agreed to it. You'd have 5 first-round picks and redeem Murtka with a year at check. Like, you'd have everything to go get number 2 because 5 picks on top of I wouldn't care as much about Jiricek if you've got Murtka in your system.
From the 314, guys, believe it or not, Nolan Gorman has played his final game in a St. Louis Cardinals uniform.
I'll say not believe it because I think after they do this whole retraining camp with him that they'll feel like, hey, we found something and get him back before the deadline or before the offseason. So I'll say not. We see him at least one more time.
So far, he is, I think, like 1 for 10.
Yeah, he struck
with
out
6 strikeouts.
Yeah. I'll say believe it. I don't think Blaze, he may cool off, but he looks fine at third base. Like, he'd have to almost go through a Gorman-esque stretch. And I think he's ARB eligible, right? In the offseason. They'll just
I was thinking
non-tender
more
him
like
or
the
they'll
DH.
try to trade him.
I was thinking more like you bring him up back as the DH.
I don't even know if you need to do that because Herrera's doing his thing there.
I think he gets the Dylan Carlson treatment from a few years ago, where you sell him off for
A bag of
pieces.
balls.
Yeah. So I think he's done. I'll say believe it. I think he has played his final game with the Cardinals. There's no value there anymore.
Agreed.
It's just not working. It didn't work. You tried it. I give them credit for trying. They should have. It was the correct decision at the time. And now you move on. And other guys get the opportunities at third base. So, yeah, I agree with T-Bone. He's going to cost too much money. He's getting expensive. If he was still under club control where it was like $700,000 a year, whatever. No harm, no foul. You send him down to the minors, you keep him there for a little while. But he's clogging a spot on the 40-man roster now. He's going to cost you real money starting next year. Yeah, if it gets in.
If they don't trade him at the deadline to go get something, like you're saying, almost like a change of scene, because Carlson, they got like 3 weeks out of a reliever from Tampa and Sean Armstrong. If that doesn't happen, I don't even know if they would tender the contract because they may not be able to move him in the offseason. It'd be at almost too much of a risk. You just may non-tender him and lose him for nothing.
This comes from David Paniota. Teams are having draft meetings this morning and today, which makes it feel like it's quiet, but still plenty of chatter out there. Some quick hits. Sabres and Leafs have discussed a potential deal for Brandon Carlo.
Oh my God, if they trade the 4th overall pick for Brandon Carlo, we see the 4th get moved for 2 terrible defensemen. Oh my God.
Montreal among the teams curious about Marchenko. Florida might not be a fit for Bennington. Ristolainen talks are still active.
No-ish. What did Army say yesterday? That, this is like still the fast pace or the fast walk or whatever he called it in terms of this race. Speed walk.
2.5 mile walk yesterday, 4 mile walk today, or jog today,
is what it was
and
on
then
the trip,
8
though.
mile run on Friday. I think is what
so
he said.
tomorrow, I think tonight and tomorrow is where things really pick up. You'll see some action. And if nothing happens between 7 o'clock tonight and 10 a.m. tomorrow, then I think the next phase is probably like at 6 o'clock. Watch something happen in like 30 minutes. Yeah.
I just felt my watch go off. Is this Friedman? Oh, no, the Rays have a no-no going. Never mind.
Ooh. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK.
That's more important. Let's talk about that. Tampa's got a no-no.
No, let's go back to the Blues.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll hit the BK and Ferrario rewind. But next, I want to get back into the Matthew Liberatore conversation.
Yeah. Woohoo!
Are we going to see this come to an end, or are they going to stick with him? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here in the Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals supposed to play today if weather permits. 6:45 will be first pitch. Zach Gallen on the mound for Arizona. Michael McGreevy will get the start for St. Louis. And if you missed it earlier today in the show, we had the chance to catch up with the St. Louis Cardinals CEO, Bill DeWitt III. If you missed that interview, check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, or via the free 101 ESPN app. This Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
What do you do with Matthew Liberatore?
Well, you would say shoot him to the sun.
I would just say put him in the bullpen.
That's like going to
That's not what the first segment sounded like today.
Well, I just don't want him to be in the rotation any longer.
You don't want to see him any longer.
He's one of 4 pitchers since July 1st of last year that's been worth negative wins above replacement, despite throwing at least 100 innings. Now, this is not great for the Cardinals. 2 of those other pitchers, 2 of the 4, also pitched for the Cardinals. Eric Fetty, Miles Michaelis, Matthew Liberatore being the third, and then there's Mitchell Parker, who's also hanging out with the crew. It's not great, man. He was once again bad last night. He had 3 good innings, and then it just kind of imploded on him. That's been the theme of the season, whether it's the velocity, the breaking ball, he just doesn't have the sequencing down, whatever the case is. It's always something. And to me, Alex, you can bolster the bullpen a bit and improve his spot in the rotation, or at a minimum, keep it similar to where he's at by going with something different. Now, the Cardinals' pushback to this has been, yeah, but then what? So we bring up Hunter Dobbins, and what's our depth that remains down to the AAA level? We still have Bryson Motts, who they decided to bring up at one point. Quinn Matthews has been figuring it out over the last month. He's been really good quietly down at AAA for about a month now. And you also could just stretch back out Matthew Liberatore in the event that you get into a really bad scenario where multiple of your starting pitchers go down for injury. And if this works, by the way, you could trade for somebody at the trade deadline, because now you've potentially fixed a hole in your bullpen, improved your rotation, and you've been able to stay the course prior to August the 3rd, where now you're in it, you're in a wild card spot, and you could then go make a move for a starting pitcher that can help you for at least the rest of this season and potentially beyond. So that would be my view on what they should do here. I don't think they share that view based upon what we have heard from the organization. They seem still to be committed to Matthew Liberatore and his 5.6 ERA. How do you view this, Alex?
I think there should be a change. Like, you presented the Cardinals would say, then what? All of the then what questions you've had with prior moves, you've agreed to, yeah, but let's not worry about the then what. Let's make our team better now. Like, the then what with Jimmy Crooks is like, well, what if his offense doesn't play? Then what? Well, then you go right back to Pedro Pajes, and you're in the same spot you were prior.
Or you stick with him.
That changed. They haven't really gotten much of an upgrade in that
Blaze
department.
Jordan, they were trying to tell us he's down to third baseman and say, well, if he doesn't pan out and he can't play defense, then what? Well, then you go back to Nolan Gorman. Like, all of the then what's.
Or then you try Brian Torres, or then you try Jose Fermin, or then you try literally anything.
All of the then what's have fallen.
I was curious how many more then what's you can come up with.
There's not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot more then what's at that position. But all of the then what's have fallen flat when they said, yeah, but it upgrades our team now. And I think if you're the Cardinals and you just look at the landscape of what we discussed, is like, is this going to happen again? I don't know if the Cardinals are as worried about, is this going to happen again, because it is a rebuild in their eyes. And they're like, look, the long-term plan is more important than the right now. But if you don't want this thing to fall flat, you're upgrading 2 areas. Like, your bullpen is starting to get taxed. Now, I don't know what it looks like if you pluck Liberatore from the rotation and move him to the bullpen. Is there a little bit of frustration from him and that he can't perform there, and then you got to send him to the minors? But let's go down to the past, or let's go down the path of he is effective in the bullpen. 1, you've upgraded your rotation, hopefully with Quinn Matthews or Hunter Dobbins or Bryson Motts. And 2, now I've lengthened out my bullpen to where I have another guy I feel comfortable with in late inning situations that can go get me an effective couple of outs, and it's still a factor I can go to later on in the season. So I only see wins here.
He can also give you length. That's the other thing. Coming out of the bullpen, you can get 2 innings out of Matthew Liberatore, which is valuable. It's similar to what we saw last night out of Burrell, but now you can do that in games that you're winning. Right, because you trust him in big moments to potentially go out there. T-Bone, you disagree with that?
I wouldn't put him out there in big moments right now. I mean, if he goes to the pen, in my opinion, he's in the Brule rule. And I mean, truly the Brule rule, which
For right
is...
now.
Yeah,
but if he goes out there and looks
it.
good...
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but like right now, he's been getting clobbered against lefties.
The last time in the bullpen he was there, though, that was a guy I felt very comfortable with coming in the 7th or 8th.
But I would add that maybe things have just changed with the way his pitches look now, right? I mean, we've seen this with pitchers. Snap of the finger, it's gone. And sometimes it's just hard to explain. Like, you guys remember Tristan McKenzie with the Cleveland Guardians? Mm-hmm. That guy was great. He's out of baseball. Like, that's just how quickly it goes, and that was in a matter of 3 years. I hope that's not the case for Matthew Liberatore, but I agree with what you're saying. I think the question they have to be asking is, how can we maximize these spots and maximize Liberatore on the roster? And clearly he's not being maximized as a starter because it's clearly not going well for him, and it hasn't gone well for a calendar year, and you don't tip pitches for a calendar year. So if we put him in the bullpen, okay, can he provide more for us in that role by replacing either Justin Brule, or if they said, you know what, we would be willing to carry another lefty, we can send down a righty, can he be better there? And then the question becomes, can one of these guys that are down in the minor leagues, can they come up here and be better than Matthew Liberatore? Doesn't have to be by a lot, but can they just be better? And then that gives us an answer for things as we go towards the trade deadline and can help us kind of reorganize our pitching board internally in our organization as we continue to go through the season.
And if we're being real, if the answer is no, they can't be better than what Matthew Liberatore is, then you've got a problem. Like, Matthew Liberatore has been one of the worst pitchers in Major League Baseball this year. Mm-hmm. Worst starters.
Yeah.
He's got a 5.6 ERA. All of the underlying numbers suggest, like, that's real. He's been every bit as bad as what the overall ERA would suggest so far this season. The strikeout numbers are slightly up. Walk numbers also slightly up. Home run rate is really up. And he just isn't finding ways to get deep into baseball games. So if that's what you're getting out of Liberatore, if I can't get a 5.5 ERA or better out of Hunter Dobbins or Bryson Motts or Quinn Matthews, then that does not speak highly of where those guys are at in their development right now, right? So to me, there's very little upside that exists right now with Liberatore. Yes, he's under club control, but he's also about to get a little more expensive, and you're going to want to get a payoff on that sooner rather than later. You could also, if you really, really wanted to, send Libby down to the minor leagues. If you're that terrified of what it means for your rotation depth, then keep Liberatore as rotation depth. If you're super committed to him as a starter, then to me, it would make more sense to give him these opportunities down at AAA and do what you did with Andre Palante, where he figured it out and added the pitch that opened up his arsenal by going down to AAA and working on it. Because right now, what you're doing with Liberatore at the major league level is hurting your team. You are actively worse every time that he starts, and it's not just for that day. It's having a trickle-down effect into the next day. And when you've got Leahy and Libby going in back-to-back days, as they do right now, it's a problem. Because if those guys go short the way that they did last turn, you can feel that for multiple days as you continue along, and they have to make big decisions because of those. Like, you had half of your bullpen that just flat out wasn't available over the last couple of days.
In a critical series.
That's a problem. And it continues to be an issue for them. So I think it's time. I think it's time to make a move. I do not think that they will, but it's disappointing because we've seen them do this with Gorman. They did it with Victor Scott. They did it with the catching situation by benching Pedro Paez.
Brought up Velasquez.
I don't get why this is the one spot where it's quote-unquote different. I don't understand.
And I would say that if there are reports, as they would call them, are saying, hey, Dobbins, Matthews, Motts, those three not better than what Matthew Liberatore is right now, I would ask some critical questions about your reports, because your reports also said Blaze Jordan couldn't play third base, and he's been fine.
Sure.
If we were going off the reports, Blaze wouldn't be here. You know, we would still be talking about Gorman, or, okay, maybe they tried Torres over there, but they said, you know what, let's just see what it looks like. We'll find out if the reports are accurate. And I would say, we talked about it earlier, outside the one error he had yesterday, he's been totally fine at third base. Can you get just totally fine? It's not like you're asking a Dobbins or a Motts or Matthews to come in here and be like, all right, we need you to be our number one. Now go out there and shove for us, kid.
Go be a 5 that gives us 5 innings and 3
what you did last year with Fetty.
Give us 5 innings and a chance.
You didn't make the move soon enough with Fetty to bring in the guy that could just come up and be effective. Like Michael McGreevy was that guy to where you just put him in the spot and it's like, hey, man, you're just effective for us. And that's all we need compared to what Fetty is. And lo and behold, it ruined your chances of making July better than what it turned out to be.
Yeah, imagine if they had gone to McGreevy earlier in the season. Now, they would tell you if we did, we would have no depth and we'd be screwed. Okay. You also might have been able to stay in the mix up until the trade deadline. Like that
and you
was
really
the
didn't have to worry
alternative.
about depth at that point last year because McGreevy stepped in. Now, I know an injury happened, but you're
What
focused
they're
on
saying
making sure.
is if you ended up with an injury after you bring up
then
McGreevy,
you're bleeped at that point.
Understood.
You're just as
Also,
bleeped there
I
than
would
you would be
say-
with Fetty starting.
Go make a move, right? Like, come on.
The Cubs just did it.
The Cubs did it yesterday. They traded for a guy that stinks in David Peterson. You know what they did that for? They didn't have anybody to pitch for him because 6 of their starters are on the
And they
IL.
said our defense
you know what
is
the
better.
Brewers did? The Brewers went out and acquired Quinn Priester. They overpaid for him, but you know what? It was to salvage a season. So why just let the ship continue to sink when you can potentially make some moves, whether last year it was externally if something went wrong, or in the case of this year, when you have potentially 3 options within the organization to potentially make a move.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see the way that they handle this. They've been aggressive. They deserve all the credit in the world for the way that they handled Blaze Jordan, for the way that they handled Nathan Church, giving him the opportunities. It hasn't worked as well in this one, but Jimmy Crooks got the call up. Like they've made the moves when necessary. Chris Roycroft, we said he's got to go. He went, right? They have made aggressive moves whenever they've been necessary. This is the one that I think it's time. And I'm very interested to see what the conversation is around the ballpark over the next 24, 48, 72 hours as it pertains to Matthew Liberatore. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. We'll hit the rewind next year on 101 ESPN. He's Alex, that's T-Bone, I'm BK. Hey, tonight I'm going to be at Cyberg's on Dorset for the U.S. men's national team versus Turkey. It is on behalf of Michelob Ultra. Myself, the 101 ESPN crew, and Michelob Ultra will be on site over at Cyberg's on Dorset. It's tonight starting at 7 o'clock. The kickoff for that game is at 9, but we're going to have all the pregame festivities out there. So come on by, say hello, cheer on the U.S. men's national team with the official beer sponsor of the FIFA World Cup 26. Be sure to enjoy an Ultra as you cheer on the U.S. men's team. Details at 101ESPN.com. Alex, another piece of reporting to pass along. This comes from Darren Drager. The Flames are trying to move Connor Zary, 24-year-old forward. Another year left on his deal at $3.75 million. Calgary's asking price for him is a second-round pick. There was somebody out there, now take this for what it's worth. I don't know how real it is, but somebody from Calgary who says, keep an eye out for the Blues or the Ducks as potential landing spots for Zary. Looks like this could be coming to a close. I got to be totally honest with you guys. I'm not super familiar with Connor Zary.
I'm not either.
Former first-round pick, plays for the Calgary Flames, has played a little wing, a little bit at center. Some good metrics when it comes to what he does defensively, offensively. It's been up and down. Is this the kind of, do you think this kind of a move would make sense for the Blues?
Yes, I do. I was just texting with somebody about Zary to get a little more information, and he's like, think Sam Bennett 2.0.
Oh, wow.
Now, he doesn't play a whole lot of center for Calgary, so I don't know if that means just the style that they play. Net front presence type of person, not bad defensively, which is what Sam Bennett kind of was in Calgary. And, I mean, 34, 27, 25 points for Zary when you look at the same age with Bennett, 36, 26, 26 with the Calgary Flames. So I guess I could see it there. He's a former first-round pick. The question is the price, like you said. And if they're looking for a second-round pick, you don't have a second-round pick. Do you trade
29?
Or do you trade 2/3?
My guess is they'd ask for 29.
Probably.
Because it's 5 picks away from being a second rounder.
And you're trading a 29th overall pick for a guy who was drafted 24th and is 4 years more advanced.
Yeah, he's basically, you're getting rid of all of the development path.
Yeah.
And so, saying this guy we think is what we would hope to get at 29, and he's $3 million more expensive, and he's ready to go right now.
Is it worth the price for him? Yeah, absolutely. I think because he's more advanced and he fits into your middle six, which just plays like the net front presence. Is it worth it if that means any other big deal is potentially dead because you lose a first-round pick? That's the question I guess you got to ask. How much does 29 play into you trying to get a superstar player, Ivar Stenberg, at the second overall pick? That's the question you got to ask, because if it doesn't matter to the other team and they won 11, 15, and 16, then yeah, you do this in a heartbeat because he's 24 years old. I think I would much rather have that 29th pick available to me if I can go acquire a better talent at that spot.
Interesting times ahead for the St. Louis Blues. We will certainly keep you guys updated with anything as it happens tomorrow on BK and Ferrario. We'll be with you from 11 to 2 o'clock. Some news in Major League Baseball as well. T-Bone, you mentioned this during the break. Jesse Rogers reporting in the next CBA proposal, the league is proposing a max contract length of 5 years for free agent players if they were to switch teams. 6 years would be possible if you were to keep your own player. So similar to the NHL, where it's 8 years to stay on your team, 7 years if you go elsewhere.
Which is now shifting to 7 and 6.
No deferred contracts, no deferred money, which is something that I think all of us would be fine with. Qualifying offer, gone. Also, it would take 5 years to free agency for players that are 30 years old or older. So guys like Riley O'Brien, instead of it being the normal 6 or 7, it would only be 5 years to get to free agency, so you get there a little bit quicker. Jeff Passan also reporting here that free agents would be limited to 5-year, $200 million contracts. That would be the quote-unquote max that the teams would be able to offer.
Yeah, there's some intriguing parts in there that would play to the players, like the end of the qualifying offer, getting to free agency if you're over the age of 30 a little bit sooner. But once you start putting caps on those contracts, that's when this will fall apart. Yep. So the MLB had some of the right ideas, and those may stay in their next proposals because those may be something the players like, but they're going to have to get rid of the term on, okay, you can max out at only 200, and I doubt the 5-6 year limits will be in
There
place.
are pieces of what the owners are putting out there that I think will play.
Yeah, they're good in there.
I will say this. I do think they are playing almost a little too unfavorably in their own game, though, because the more these offers are coming out, the more cheaper they are looking. Because maxing out contracts like that is a cheap move by ownership, in my opinion.
What do you mean?
I mean, right now, I think the owners have had the favor of it. Yeah, but I think you can, like, for example, the NHL wouldn't put a limit on how much money would be in a deal.
The NBA
NFL doesn't have it. Yeah, the NBA does, but I don't
there is a cap on how much you can spend in the NHL. Like, I think there's a certain amount you can go to.
Percentage as a percentage.
Yeah, like 17 million, I think, was close to the top of what it was for Kaprizov. Like, you can't go out there and
I don't know if there is or not, but I just know, like, the NBA has that. That, to me, doesn't play into this at all. I think it'll affect, like, 5 players in Major League Baseball.
Because I remember they did this with
the cap itself is the problem.
Yeah.
That's what players are going to be completely out
NHL is 20% of the upper limit of the cap, so $19.1 million is what it is.
The only league that doesn't have that is the NFL.
Yeah.
Everybody else that has a cap has this percentage of the cap that is a quote-unquote max contract. All right. We'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. I'm sure the Fast Lane will have plenty on that as well. For Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. We'll be back at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane is next here on 101 ESPN.